In a universe where fate made a single mistake, the fabric between worlds tore open for less than a heartbeat. No cosmic entity noticed. No guardian of reality raised alarm. In that fraction of infinity, a bolt of living electricity fell from one universe into another, and everything changed. She was not meant to be here. Leslie Willis, Livewire, had been fighting Superman above Metropolis when the impossible happened. A Kryptonian weapon, ancient and forbidden, detonated between them. Reality itself screamed. The last thing she remembered was Superman's hand reaching for her, his face twisted in horror as the dimensional rift consumed her completely. Then darkness, then pain, then rebirth. When she opened her eyes, the sky was wrong. The air tasted different. The electricity flowing through power lines sang in frequencies she had never heard before. This was not her world. This was not her metropolis. This was a universe where heroes wore capes but carried no honor, where gods walked among mortals but possessed the souls of devils, where corporations commodified salvation and packaged hope in branded merchandise. This was the world of the boys, and Livewire had just become its most dangerous wild card. She pulled herself from the crater in the middle of an abandoned warehouse district. Her body crackled with unstable energy, arcs of blue-white lightning dancing across her skin. The dimensional crossing had changed her somehow. She could feel it. Her powers were amplified, raw, barely contained. Every electronic device within a mile radius sparked and died as she struggled to her feet. In the distance, she saw the skyline of a great city, not Metropolis. The signs read differently. The billboards advertised something called Vought International, and towering above it all on the side of the tallest building was a figure she did not recognize. A man in an American flag cape, his smile too perfect, his eyes too cold. Homelander. Though she did not yet know his name, she felt the wrongness radiating from his image like toxic radiation. Leslie Willis had spent years as a villain in her own world. She had fought Superman, manipulated media, caused chaos for the thrill and the fame. But she had lived in a universe with genuine heroes, where even the villains understood certain lines should never be crossed. This place was different. She could feel it in the electromagnetic fields, in the way the city's pulse felt corrupted, diseased. This was a world that had forgotten what heroes truly meant. And as distant sirens began to wail, as emergency responders mobilized toward the energy signature she had created, Livewire made a decision that would echo across this broken universe. She would not be a villain here, not in a world that already had too many monsters wearing hero masks, but neither would she be a hero, not in the traditional sense. She would be something else entirely, something this universe had never seen. She would be the reckoning they deserved. The first police helicopter crested the horizon. Its searchlight found her standing in the ruins, electricity cascading off her body like a waterfall of captured starlight. She could hear their radio chatter, their confusion, their fear. Good, she thought. Let them be afraid. Let them call their so-called heroes. Let this Vought International and their corporate gods come to investigate. Leslie Willis had nothing left to lose. No world to return to. No Superman to chase. No past to anchor her. She was unmoored from everything she had known, cast into a universe of strangers and shadows. But she was still Livewire, and this world was about to learn that when you bring lightning into darkness, everything burns. The helicopter descended. She could see the news logo on its side. Of course they would come first, not to help but to broadcast. Even in this universe, media vultures circled every tragedy. She smiled, and it was not a kind expression. Her body dissolved into pure energy, riding the power lines toward the city center, leaving only scorched earth and unanswered questions behind. In a sealed boardroom 80 stories above the city, a man named Stan Edgar received a phone call about an unidentified metahuman. He smiled slightly, adjusting his tie. Unknown variables could be threats or opportunities. He had built an empire understanding the difference. In a grimy basement apartment, Billy Butcher paused while watching news footage of the mysterious energy signature. His hand tightened around his glass of whiskey. Something in his gut told him this was important. And in the penthouse of Vought Tower, Homelander turned away from his reflection to watch the news report, his eyes beginning to glow red with anticipation and rage. Someone new had arrived in his city, someone who hadn't asked permission. That simply would not do. None of them understood yet. Not Edgar with his schemes, not Butcher with his vendetta, not Homelander with his godlike arrogance. They saw our arrival as just another event to manipulate, to control, to use. They were all making the same fatal mistake. Livewire could not be controlled, not by corporate overlords, not by vengeful crusaders, not by false gods in star-spangled capes. She was electricity given form, chaos given consciousness, and she had just become this universe's judge, jury, and executioner. The city lights flickered as she passed through them, a ghost in the machine, a storm given human shape. She did not know the rules of this world yet, did not understand its players or its games, but she would learn, she would adapt, she would survive. And when she was ready, she would show them all what real power looked like. The prologue of her legend began with that dimensional tear. But the story, the true story of how one woman from another universe broke the back of a corrupt empire and changed the definition of heroism forever, that story began on her first night in this new world. That story began with blood and lightning and choices that could never be unmade. That story began with Livewire asking herself a single question as she materialized on a rooftop overlooking the glittering poison of the city below. What would Superman do? Then she smiled again, colder this time, and gave herself an honest answer. It doesn't matter. Superman isn't here. Only I am. And that truth would reshape everything. To understand what Livewire became in this universe, you must first understand what she was before. You must know the woman before the monster, the human before the electricity. Leslie Willis was born ordinary. No alien heritage, no secret government experiment, no radioactive spider or mystical training. She was born in Metropolis to parents who worked too hard for too little, who dreamed small dreams and died with them unfulfilled. From childhood, Leslie understood one fundamental truth. The world did not care about ordinary people. It cared about spectacle. It cared about those who burned brightest, shouted loudest, demanded attention with undeniable force. She learned to be loud, to be sharp, to cut with words when she couldn't cut with power. In her universe, Leslie had become a radio shock jock, a voice that millions tuned in to hear tear down the establishment. She criticized Superman with particular venom, not because she hated him, but because he represented everything she could never be. Perfect, powerful, loved without question. The accident that gave her powers happened during an outdoor concert. Lightning struck her broadcasting equipment while she mocked Superman on live radio. The electricity should have killed her. Instead, it transformed her. It saw something in Leslie Willis that resonated with its chaotic nature. It made her its avatar. She became Livewire, living electricity, a being who could ride power lines, manipulate technology, drain cities of energy with a thought. Finally, she had power. Finally, she was special. But power did not bring her peace. It brought attention, conflict, and an endless war with the very hero she had spent years criticizing. Superman saw her as a villain to be stopped. She saw him as a self-righteous alien who couldn't understand human desperation. They fought across Metropolis 100 times. She nearly killed him twice. He saved her life more times than she could count, even when she didn't deserve it, especially when she didn't deserve it. That was the irony Leslie never quite accepted. Superman's greatest power wasn't his strength or his flight or his heat vision. It was his refusal to give up on people, even those who had given up on themselves. In her final battle before the dimensional tier, something had changed. Lex Luthor had hired her to distract Superman while he enacted some elaborate scheme. Standard villain playbook. But halfway through the fight, Leslie had seen Luthor's real plan: to destroy an entire neighborhood to discredit Superman. She had stopped. Mid-attack, energy crackling around her fists, she had stopped. "There are people down there," she had said. Superman had paused too, surprised. "I know. Kids, families, people who never asked to be part of Luthor's games or our war." "I know, Leslie. I'm not a murderer." The words came out defensive, angry. "I'm not him." Superman had smiled then, gentle and sad. "I know, I've always known." They had stopped Luthor together that day, saved the neighborhood. For one brief moment, Leslie Willis had been something other than a villain. For one shining instant, she had been a hero. Then the dimensional weapon detonated, and everything was ripped away. Now, materializing on a rooftop in a universe that felt like a funhouse mirror version of her own, Leslie clutched those memories like anchors. That moment of choosing differently. That glimpse of who she might have become. But as she looked down at this new city, this place where corporate logos defaced every surface and heroes' faces sold everything from phone plans to fast food, she felt that possibility dying. This was not a world for redemption. This was a world that punished hope and rewarded cruelty. She dissolved into electricity, sliding down the building's power systems, feeling the electromagnetic spectrum of this entire universe for the first time. It was overwhelming. Billions of devices, infinite connections, oceans of data flowing through invisible channels. She could access it all, see it all, know it all. Leslie rode the internet backbone into Vought International's servers. Breaking through their firewalls was trivial. They had been designed to stop hackers, not living electricity. Within seconds, she was drowning in information about this universe. The 7, Compound v. Supes, Vought International, Stan Edgar. The corruption was deeper than she could have imagined. These weren't heroes who occasionally made mistakes. These were weapons disguised as saviors, monsters wearing cape. She found files on Homelander, psychiatric evaluations, incident reports, kill orders disguised as approved actions. This man, this thing wearing an American flag, had committed atrocities that would make her universe's worst villains pale. And it was all covered up, sanitized, spun into marketing gold. She found files on Starlight, Annie January, a young woman who had joined the 7 with genuine heroic intentions, only to discover the nightmare she had volunteered for. She found files on the Boys, Billy Butcher's crew of vigilantes fighting Vought from the shadows, leaving corpses and chaos in their wake. She found files on countless casualties, collateral damage, acceptable losses, every corporate euphemism for innocent people dead because Supes cared more about image than lives. Leslie felt something she hadn't experienced in years, righteous fury that wasn't tinted with self-interest or jealousy. This wasn't about her ego. This was about genuine injustice on a scale that made her past crimes look like petty vandalism. She pulled back from the servers, her consciousness reforming on the rooftop, electricity crackling with renewed intensity. Her powers surged in response to her emotions, arcs of lightning jumping between nearby cell towers. In her universe, she had been a villain because it was exciting, because it gave her purpose, because Superman gave her something to push against. But here she could be something different. Not a hero. This world had too many fake heroes already. Not a villain. This world had enough of those too. She would be the storm that cleared the air, the lightning that struck without warning, the force of nature that reminded everyone, Supes and humans alike, that power came with consequences. Below her, the city continued its nightly routine. People headed home from work, unaware of the danger lurking in their heroes, unaware that their saviors were their greatest threat. Leslie Willis had been given an unexpected gift, a fresh start in a universe that desperately needed what she could offer. She wouldn't waste it. But first, she needed to understand this world's rules, needed to learn its players, needed to know who could be redeemed and who was too far gone. She needed to find the ones fighting back. Her consciousness slipped into the city's surveillance network. Thousands of cameras, all connected, all watching. She became the ultimate voyeur, seeing everything, missing nothing. It didn't take long to find Billy Butcher. Billy Butcher had seen a lot of impossible things since his war against Vought began. He had seen Supes do things that defied physics and morality in equal measure. He had seen corporate evil dressed in heroic colors. He had seen his own capacity for violence grow until he barely recognized himself. But he had never seen anything like the woman, made of lightning, standing in his safe house. "How the fuck did you get in here?" he demanded, raising his gun even though instinct told him bullets wouldn't mean much to someone literally glowing with electrical energy. "I rode your Wi-Fi," Livewire replied casually, examining the walls covered in surveillance photos, conspiracy boards, and evidence of Vought's crimes. "You should really upgrade your security. Your firewall is embarrassing." Huey Campbell, Butcher's technical expert and the heart of their operation, stammered from behind his laptop. That's not physically possible." "I'm electricity given consciousness," Leslie said, turning to face them fully. "Your understanding of possible just became outdated." Mother's Milk moved to flank Butcher, weapon raised. Frenchie and Kimiko emerged from the back room, ready for violence. The boys had survived by trusting no one, especially not random Supes who appeared in their secured locations. "You've got 5 seconds to explain yourself before this gets messy," Butcher growled. "And trust me, love, I've gotten very creative with how to hurt your kind." Livewire's expression hardened. "First, I'm not your kind. I'm not from this univ. At all. Second, I'm not your enemy. I'm the only chance you have of actually winning your war." Silence, then Huey laughed nervously. "Did she just say she's not from this universe?" "Dimensional displacement," Leslie explained, her body flickering between solid and energy forms. "There was an accident in my world. I ended up here, and after spending the last few hours studying your corrupt paradise, I've decided to help you burn it down." Butcher lowered his gun slightly, eyes narrowing. "And why would you do that?" "Because in my universe I was the villain." Leslie's voice carried unexpected emotion. "I fought against a genuine hero, Superman, and I lost every time. Not because he was stronger, but because he was better. Because he cared about people, even people like me who didn't deserve it." She gestured toward the surveillance photos of the 7. "But these people, Homelander and his corporate-sponsored monsters, They're not heroes playing at being villains. They're villains playing at being heroes, and that makes them so much worse than I ever was. How do we know you're not working for Vought? Mother's Milk challenged. This could be some elaborate setup. Livewire smiled, and every electronic device in the room sparked. Data from Butcher's most secure files suddenly displayed on every screen. Information he had never shared with anyone. Evidence he had gathered through years of bloody investigation. "Because I already know everything you know," she said quietly. "Your wife Becca, Billy, how Homelander raped her, how Vought covered it up, how they've been hiding your son from you." The room exploded with tension. Butcher's hand tightened on his gun, his face contorting with rage and grief. "How the fuck?" "I read Vaught's servers, every file, every secret, every crime they've swept under the billion-dollar rug." Leslie's form solidified completely, becoming fully human for the first time since she arrived. She needed them to see her as real, not just a power. "I know about Compound V, I know how they create Supes. I know about every murder, every cover-up, every child they've experimented on. I know that Starlight is one of the few with actual integrity, that A-Train killed Huey's girlfriend Robin, that the Deep is exactly as pathetic as he seems." She turned to Kimiko. "I know about your brother, about what the Shining Light Liberation Army did to you both." To Frenchie, "I know about your past with Mallory, the missions that still haunt you." To Mother's Milk, "I know what Soldier Boy did to your family, why you keep those pictures in your wallet." To Huey, "I know you're terrified every single day, but you show up anyway. That takes more courage than any Supe power." The silence that followed was profound. Butcher stared at her with an expression caught between murderous rage and desperate hope. "You can really access everything?" he finally asked. "Everything electronic, every database, every recording, every digital footprint. I'm living proof of every crime Vought has committed because I've seen it all." Leslie's electricity crackled softer now, almost gentle. "I'm the evidence you've been killing yourselves to gather. I'm the weapon you've been praying for." "Why?" Butcher pressed. "Why help us? You're a Supe. You've got powers beyond anything we could dream of. Why not join Vought, play the game, cash the checks?" Leslie's expression darkened with memory. "Because I've been on both sides. I know what it's like to be powerless and angry at a system designed to keep you down. And I know what it's like to have power and lose yourself in it." She moved to the window, looking out at the glittering city. "In my world, Superman never stopped trying to save me, even when I was my own worst enemy, even when I gave him every reason to give up. He saw something in me worth saving." "That's touching and all," Mother's Milk said carefully, "but Superman ain't here." "Exactly." Livewire turned back to them and her eyes crackled with blue-white energy. "Superman isn't here. There are no real heroes in this universe, just survivors and monsters. So I'm going to do what Superman would do if he were here. I'm going to be better than I was, better than this world expects." Huey spoke up, his voice uncertain but hopeful. "So what's your plan?" "Simple. We expose Vought for what they really are. Not just to the media or the government. Those institutions are already compromised. We expose them to the world in a way that can't be spun, buried, or explained away." Leslie's form began to flicker with energy again. "We make them face consequences for the first time in their existence." Butcher studied her for a long moment. He had built his life on suspicion, on never trusting Supes, on understanding that power corrupted absolutely. But he also recognized something in this strange woman's eyes. The same burning need for justice that drove him to destroy himself piece by piece. "All right," he finally said. "Let's say I believe you. Let's say we work together. What's the first move?" Livewire smiled and lightning danced between her fingers. We need to hit Vought where they're most vulnerable, not their stock price, not their public image. We hit their control over their Supes. She pulled up holographic displays from nearby devices, showing internal memos about Compound V distribution. They keep their heroes on a leash by controlling their powers. Some Supes need regular doses of Compound V to maintain their abilities. Others are blackmailed with information from their past. Still others are just too broken to realize they could walk away. We sever those leashes, she continued. We free the Supes who deserve freedom, and we eliminate the ones too far gone to save. You'd kill your own kind, Frenchie asked, fascinated. They're not my kind, Leslie corrected. My kind are people who try to do the right thing even when it's hard, even when it hurts. Powers are irrelevant, choices are everything. Kimiko signed something. Frenchie translated. She wants to know if you'll really be able to do it, to kill a Supe when the time comes. Livewire's expression became stone. I've killed before. In my world, my actions led to deaths I never intended. Collateral damage I was too proud to acknowledge. I've spent years telling myself it wasn't my fault, that chaos isn't responsible for what breaks in the storm. She clenched her fists, electricity arcing between them. But Superman held me accountable anyway, not with punishment but with expectation. He believed I could be better, so I had to be better. That's the burden of someone believing in you. So yes, she finished coldly. When I find Supes who have gone too far, who have become the monsters this world created them to be, I will end them without hesitation. Because that's what they would have wanted before Vought broke them. That's the mercy they deserve. Butcher laughed, sharp and bitter. Christ, you really are from another universe. That's the most noble-sounding murder justification I've ever heard. It's not justification, Leslie countered. It's responsibility. Power demands accountability. And in this universe, I'm the only one with enough power and enough distance to deliver it. The boys exchanged looks. They had spent years as the underdogs, using cunning and desperation to fight gods. Now a god was offering to fight alongside them. It was either a miracle or a trap. What's your first target? Butcher asked. Livewire pulled up an image of a man in a silver suit with lightning bolt designs. The deep is pathetic but salvageable. A train is a murderer but potentially redeemable. Black Noir is a mystery, but this one, Homelander. Her expression became something frightening. He's the rot at the center of everything. The symbol Vought built their empire on. The monster they unleashed and can't control. He's what happens when you give a broken child godlike power and tell him he's special. He's also unkillable, Mother's Milk said grimly. We've tried, nothing touches him. Everything is killable, Livewire replied. You just need to understand the weakness. And I've had all night to study his files. I know what he is, what he's afraid of, and how to hurt him. She turned to Butcher. But we don't start with Homelander. We start with someone he cares about. Someone whose death or betrayal will destabilize him, make him sloppy, turn him from a calculated monster into a rabid animal. Who? Huey asked nervously. Livewire's smile was sharp as broken glass. We start with Queen Maeve. Queen Maeve, Maggie Shaw, stood on her balcony overlooking the city, a glass of wine in hand, wondering how many more sunsets she would see before this life finally killed her. She had been a hero once. Real or imagined, she had believed it. Believed in justice, in protecting the innocent, in using her power for good. That girl seemed like a character from someone else's biography now. Vought had ground that girl down. Homelander had murdered what remained. Now Maeve was just a beautiful corpse in a warrior's body, going through the motions, cashing the checks, waiting for the inevitable end. Nice view. Maeve spun, wine glass dropping and shattering on the balcony floor. A woman made of crackling blue-white energy stood behind her, having apparently materialized from the building's electrical systems. "Who the hell are you?" Maeve demanded, falling into a combat stance despite her surprise. "Someone from a universe where heroes actually exist," Livewire replied, her form solidifying into something human-shaped but still wreathed in electricity. "I'm here to give you a choice. I don't know who you think you are, but breaking into a member of the Seven's apartment is a really bad. Your name is Maggie Shaw. You grew up in Kansas. You fell in love with a woman named Alina, but Vought made you hide that relationship because it didn't fit your brand. You've watched Homelander commit atrocities for years and done nothing because you're terrified of him." Maeve's blood ran cold. "How do you?" "I know everything, Maggie. I've read every file in Vaught's servers, every secret, every sin. I know about the plane. How Homelander let all those people die rather than risk his image. I know you wanted to try saving them anyway, and he threatened you into compliance." The wine-soaked balcony tiles crackled as Maeve's hands clenched into fists. "If you know all that, you know he'll kill you for even mentioning it." "Homelander doesn't scare me." Lightning arced between Livewire's fingers. "I didn't come here to threaten you, Maggie. I came here to offer you something you haven't had in years, a way out." "There is no way out," Maeve said bitterly. "You think you're the first person to suggest I turn against Vought, against him. People who cross Homelander don't end well. People who cross Vought end up disappeared. That's because they were human, vulnerable, easy to threaten or eliminate." Livewire stepped closer. "I'm not human, I'm not from this world. I have no family to threaten, no past to expose, no vulnerabilities for Vought to exploit. And my power," she gestured, and every light in Maeve's building flickered in unison. "I can be anywhere there's electricity. I can know anything stored digitally. I'm the threat they can't contain." Maeve studied this strange woman, this being of pure energy wearing a human face. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to be the hero you pretended to be. I want you to help me tear down Vaught's empire from the inside. And I want you to help me kill Homelander." Silence. Then Maeve laughed, sharp and pained. "Kill Homelander. He's invulnerable. We've all seen him take missiles to the chest without a scratch. His eyes can cut through anything. He can hear a whisper from miles away. You can't kill him." "Superman was invulnerable too," Livewire replied. "But even gods have weaknesses. Homelander's isn't kryptonite, it's his psychology. He's a narcissist, a sociopath raised in a laboratory and told he's special. His weakness is his need for love and his terror of being ordinary." She pulled up holographic displays from nearby electronics, showing psychological profiles and incident reports. "He's already unstable, already fracturing under the pressure of maintaining his image. We don't need to overpower him physically. We need to break him mentally, turn him into such a public threat that even Vought can't protect him anymore." "And how exactly do we do that?" Maeve challenged. "We take away everything that gives him power over others, his image, his control, his secrets. We expose what he really is to a world that worships him as a god." Livewire's expression hardened. "And then, when he's isolated and desperate, when he's become the monster he always was beneath the costume, we end him." Maeve moved to the balcony railing, looking down at the city lights. "You're talking about a war. Vought will mobilize every resource against us. Other Supes, private armies, government connections. We'd be fighting the most powerful corporation in the world." "You're already fighting them," Livewire countered. Every day you wake up and pretend to be happy in your gilded cage. You're fighting a losing battle against your own soul. At least this way, you're fighting for something. Why do you even care? Maeve turned back to her. You said you're from another universe. You could just leave, find a way home. Why throw yourself into our mess? Leslie Willis allowed her electrical form to fade completely, becoming fully human for the first time in this conversation. She needed Maeve to see the person, not just the power. Because in my universe, a hero kept believing in me when I didn't deserve it. Superman saw something worth saving in a woman who used her power for selfish, destructive purposes. He never gave up. Her voice cracked slightly. But he's not here. There's no Superman in this universe. No one to believe in the villains until they become heroes. No one to hold the powerful accountable. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to be what this world needs, even if I wasn't what my world needed. Maeve saw something in those words, in that raw admission of failure and hope, that resonated with her own broken idealism. You really think we can win? I think trying is better than the alternative. I think dying on your feet beats living on your knees. And I think you're tired of being Vought's puppet queen. Livewire extended her hand, electricity dancing harmlessly between her fingers. Help me, not for revenge or glory. Help me because somewhere inside, the woman who wanted to be a real hero is still screaming to get out. Maggie Shaw looked at that offered hand for a long moment. Every rational part of her brain screamed that this was suicide, that Homelander would destroy them both, that Vought's power was absolute. But the irrational part, the part T still dreamed of being worthy of the costume she wore. That part whispered that this might be her only chance at redemption. She took Livewire's hand. The electricity tingled but didn't hurt. All right, I'm in. But we need more than just us. Homelander alone is bad enough, but Vought has dozens of Supes, trained security teams, political influence. I know, that's why we're building an army. Livewire smiled. I've already recruited the boys' Butcher's team. They have the human resources, the tactical expertise, and the burning desire to see Vought burn. Now with you, we have an inside operative in the Seven. Someone who knows Homelander's patterns, his vulnerabilities. Who else? Maeve asked. Starlight, Annie January. She still has principles, and I think she's close to breaking anyway. Then we find the Supes who Vought has abused, broken, or discarded. We turn them against their masters. And Homelander. We make him watch everything he's built crumble. We make him feel powerless. We make him human. Livewire's eyes flickered with electric fury. And then, when he's just a scared little boy in a god's body, we show him what real power looks like. Maeve felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest, hope. Terrifying, dangerous hope. Elena, my girlfriend, if we do this, Vought will go after her. Already handled, Livewire assured her. I've been scrubbing digital records of your connection to her. As far as Vought's systems know, Elena doesn't exist, and I can keep her off their radar permanently. That's the advantage of being the machine. I control what the machine sees. For the first time in years, Maggie Shaw smiled genuinely. When do we start? Now, Livewire began to dissolve back into electricity. Tomorrow, Homelander is scheduled for a public appearance, some charity event Vought orchestrated for good PR. You'll be there. You'll act normal, but you'll be watching, learning, gathering intelligence. And you. I'll be everywhere and nowhere, the ghost in the machine, the whisper in the wires. I'll be watching him too, learning his patterns, finding the cracks in his armor. Her form was almost pure energy now. This is a long game, Maggie. We can't rush it. One mistake and he kills us both. I understand. Good, and Maggie. Livewire's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Thank you for choosing to fight. Superman would be proud." Then she was gone, leaving only the faint smell of ozone and the lingering charge of possibility in the air. Maeve stood alone on her balcony, surrounded by broken wine glass and broken promises. But for the first time in years, she felt like more than Vaught's property. For the first time in forever, she felt like herself. The war was coming, and Queen Maeve was finally ready to be the warrior she had always pretended to be. Stan Edgar sat in his pristine office, fingers steepled, reviewing the latest anomaly reports with the cold calculation that had made him the most dangerous man in America. "An unregistered metahuman with electrical manipulation abilities," he said to the assistant standing at attention before him. "No records in our databases, no known origin point, no identification. Simply appeared in the city 3 days ago." "Yes, sir," the assistant confirmed nervously. "Our satellites picked up the energy signature, but by the time response teams arrived, she was gone. Since then, we've detected power fluctuations across the city grid, but we can't pin down her location." Edgar pulled up surveillance footage on his monitors, grainy images of a woman wreathed in lightning, caught on traffic cameras and cell phone videos before disappearing. "Interesting. What does our psychological team say?" "They're working with limited data, but initial assessment suggests high intelligence, tactical awareness, and possibly metahuman sensory abilities. She's avoiding detection deliberately, sir. She knows we're looking." "Of course she does." Edgar leaned back in his chair. "Everyone knows Vought tracks metahumans. The question is, why is she avoiding contact? Most unregistered Supes either try to join us for the money and fame, or they hide in fear. This one is doing neither." He tapped his fingers on the desk rhythmically. "She's studying us, learning our patterns. That suggests either espionage or preparation for confrontation. Either option is unacceptable." "Should we mobilize the Seven, sir?" "Not yet. Homelander is already agitated by this situation. Having an unknown Supe in his city offends his sense of ownership. If we send him after her too early, he'll turn it into a public spectacle, and we don't yet know enough about her capabilities." Edgar pulled up another file, financial records and operational reports. "Instead, we'll use our other assets. Activate A-Train. Tell him we need reconnaissance, not engagement. I want to know who this woman is, what she wants, and whether she's working alone or with accomplices." "Yes, sir, and if A-Train locat, leaves her." He reports back immediately. "No heroics, no confrontation. He's fast but not invulnerable." Edgar's eyes gleamed with predatory intelligence. Vought didn't become the most powerful corporation in history by rushing into unknown variables. We observe, we learn, we adapt. Then we acquire or eliminate depending on which option serves our interests. The assistant nodded and left. Edgar turned to his monitors, studying the blurry images of Livewire. In his 30 years running Vought, he had seen every type of metahuman. The altruistic heroes who actually believed in justice, the fame seekers who wanted celebrity, the traumatized victims who didn't know what they had become, the calculated mercenaries who sold their powers to the highest bidder. This woman felt different. Something in her body language suggested confidence beyond her apparent age, a certainty that came from experience, not bravado. "Who are you?" Edgar murmured to the image. "And what do you want with my company?" Across the city, in an underground server room hidden beneath a legitimate tech company, Livewire existed in a distributed state. Her consciousness spread across hundreds of systems simultaneously. She was reading Edgar's emails as he wrote them, watching surveillance feeds as they recorded, learning Vaught's entire operational structure in real time. She saw A-Train receive his assignment, saw him inject himself with compound V to maintain his speed, saw the desperation in his eyes, the fear that his powers were failing, that Vought would discard him the moment he was no longer useful. Livewire made a note. A-Train was salvageable, terrified enough to turn if approached correctly. She shifted her awareness to another location, Vought Tower, where Homelander was destroying a subordinate's office over some minor perceived slight. The man cowered on the ground while America's greatest hero loomed over him, eyes glowing red with barely contained murder. "I don't pay you to make excuses," Homelander snarled. "I pay you to make me look good. And this interview request from the New York Times, they're going to ask about that building that collapsed, about the people who died. Sir, our PR team can handle." "I don't want PR handling it. I want it buried. I want the families paid off. I want every journalist who even thinks about asking tough questions to mysteriously lose their jobs." Homelander's voice dropped to something more terrifying than his rage, cold, calculating malice. "Do you understand me?" Yes, sir, absolutely." "Good." Homelander straightened, his public smile snapping back into place like a mask. "Because if I see even one unflattering headline, I'm going to come back here and pull your spine out through your mouth. And I'll make sure it's the last thing you ever see." He walked away whistling, leaving the man trembling on the floor. Livewire recorded every second, every threat, every casual promise of violence. This was the man Vought had built an empire on. This was what passed for heroism in this universe. She thought of Superman again, how he would have been appalled by every second of what she just witnessed, how he would have tried to reach Homelander, to appeal to whatever humanity remained beneath the conditioning and trauma. But Leslie knew better. She had seen the files, had read the psychological evaluations. Homelander wasn't human anymore. Maybe he never had been. He was a weapon that thought it was a god, and you didn't reason with weapons. You disabled them. Her consciousness flowed back to the safe house where the boys were planning their next move. Butcher had spread maps and surveillance photos across a table, marking locations with red circles. Vought has 12 major facilities in this city alone, he was explaining to the group. Manufacturing plants for compound V research labs, media centers, and this one, he tapped a building on the outskirts of the city, is where they keep their failed experiments, Supes who didn't make the cut, who were too damaged or too dangerous even for Vought standards. "You want to break them out?" Huey asked incredulously. "Billy, those people are unstable. There's a reason Vought locked them up." "And there's a reason Vought created them in the first place," Butcher countered. "Vought makes weapons. Some of those weapons malfunction. But that doesn't mean they can't be useful, especially if we point them in the right direction." Livewire materialized from the building's electrical system. "Butcher's right. I've seen the files on that facility. Dozens of Supes with powers ranging from dangerous to apocalyptic. Vought keeps them sedated, locked away, forgotten." "So we weaponize them," Mother's Milk said skeptically. "Use them the same way Vought does." "No," Leslie countered. "We free them, give them a choice. Some will join us, they have every reason to hate Vought. Some will run and hide just wanting to be left alone. And some," she paused, "some will be too far gone, too broken. Those we'll have to put down for everyone's safety." "Christ, you're cold," Frenchie muttered. "I'm realistic," Livewire corrected. "You can't save everyone. Superman taught me that. Sometimes the kindest thing is to end suffering, not prolong it." Butcher looked at her with new appreciation. "You really aren't like other Supes, are you?" "I'm exactly like other Supes," Leslie replied. "I'm powerful, damaged, and one bad day away from becoming everything I hate. The difference is I know it, and I'm choosing differently this time." Kimiko signed something. Frenchie translated. "She asks what you were in your world before you came here." Livewire's electrical form flickered with emotion. "I was a villain, a selfish, angry woman who used her powers to hurt people because I was hurting. I fought Superman not because I believed in any cause, but because I wanted to prove I was his equal." "And were you?" Huey asked softly. "No, not even close." Leslie's voice carried years of regret. "Superman was everything I pretended to be, strong but gentle, powerful but compassionate. He could have killed me 100 times. Instead, he tried to save me, even from myself." She looked at each of them in turn. "That's why I'm here, why I'm doing this. Because I spent years fighting the best person I ever knew, and he never stopped believing I could be better. Now he's gone, I'm stuck in a universe full of monsters wearing hero masks, and I finally have a chance to prove he was right." The silence that followed was profound. Even Butcher seemed moved, though he covered it with a cough and returned to his maps. "All right then," he said gruffly. "We hit the facility tomorrow night. We free whoever can be freed. We eliminate whoever can't. And we gain allies for the war that's coming." "Homelander will respond," Mother's Milk warned. "He'll see it as a direct challenge." "Good," Livewire said. "Let him come. Let him see that he's not the only god in this universe. Let him feel uncertain for the first time in his miserable life." She began to dissolve back into electricity. "I need to check in with Maeve. Make sure her cover is still intact. Then I'm going to pay A-Train a visit." "Why A-Train?" Huey asked, tension in his voice. A train had killed his girlfriend. That wound was still raw. "Because he's weak, desperate, and terrified, which makes him perfect for turning against Vought." Livewire looked at Huey with something like sympathy. "I know what he did to Robin. I know what he took from you. And when this is all over, when Vought is ashes and Homelander is dead, you'll have your chance to face him. But right now, we need every advantage we can get." Huey nodded slowly, hating that she was right. "Tomorrow night then," Butcher confirmed. "The facility. We go in fast, extract who we can, burn the rest. Standard operating procedure." "There's nothing standard about this," Livewire warned. "This is the beginning of a war that will reshape this entire universe. Once we start, there's no going back. Vought will mobilize everything against us. Homelander will stop pretending to be civilized. People will die, maybe some of us." She looked at each of them. "So I'm giving you one last chance to walk away, to go back to your lives, to let someone else fight this battle." No one moved. No one spoke. They had all lost too much to Vought to turn back now. "All right then," Livewire said softly. "Tomorrow we show them what happens when you build an empire on lies. We show them what real justice looks like." And with that, she vanished into the electrical grid, leaving the boys to prepare for the battle that would change everything. In Vought Tower, Edgar received a report that made him frown slightly. A-Train's tracking systems have detected unusual power surges near his current location. It appears our mysterious Supe is seeking contact. He smiled thinly. "Excellent. Let them talk. Record everything. Perhaps this unknown variable is about to make the mistake of revealing her intentions." But in his perfect confidence, Stan Edgar had no way of knowing that every system he relied on, every camera and microphone and digital sensor, was already compromised. That the woman he sought to contain had already become the infrastructure itself. The machine was watching, and the machine was angry. The storm was coming, and no one, not Vought, not the Seven, not even Homelander, was ready for what Livewire was about to unleash. A-Train stood in the alley behind a nightclub, injecting another dose of Compound V into his arm with shaking hands. His powers were failing. Each race took more out of him. Each burst of speed left him gasping, heart pounding like it might explode from his chest. Vought didn't know, couldn't know. The moment they discovered he was burning out, they'd replace him with some younger, faster version. He'd seen it happen to others. Supes passed their prime, quietly disappeared from public view, their contracts terminated, their lives destroyed. "That's the third dose today," a voice said from the shadows. "You keep that up, your heart will give out before Vought fires you." A train spun, dropping into a combat stance despite his exhaustion. A woman stepped into the dim light, crackling with blue-white electricity, her form shifting between solid and energy. "Who the fuck are you?" "I'm the person who's going to save your life," Livewire replied calmly. "Or end it, depends on the next 5 minutes." A-Train's mind raced. This was the unknown Supes Vought was looking for. Edgar had ordered him to report any contact immediately, but something in her eyes stopped him from running, from calling for backup. "I know you killed Robin Ward," Livewire continued, moving closer with slow deliberation. "Ran right through her, barely even slowed down. Left Huey Campbell holding pieces of his girlfriend while you disappeared." A-Train's jaw tightened. "It was an accident, I didn't mean." "You were high on Compound V, racing your girlfriend, showing off like a child with a new toy. You murdered an innocent woman through sheer negligence, and Vought covered it up." Leslie's voice was ice. "Don't insult my intelligence with excuses." "What do you want?" A-Train demanded, though his voice shook. "You here to kill me, for revenge?" "If I wanted you dead, you'd already be ashes." Electricity arced between her fingers. "I'm here to offer you a choice. Keep working for Vought, keep injecting poison into your veins, keep running yourself to death for a corporation that sees you as disposable product. Or..." She let the word hang. "Lord." "Or you help me destroy them. Help me tear down the empire built on your suffering. Help me show the world what Vought really is." Livewire pulled up holographic displays from nearby electronics, showing medical files, incident reports, cover-up documents. "I know everything, Reggie. Your real name, your brother, how Vought experimented on you as a child, how they've been managing your deteriorating powers by increasing your Compound V doses, knowing it's killing you." A train stared at the files, his entire exploited life displayed in damning detail. "How did you?" "I'm living electricity. I exist in every system, every database, every digital record. There are no secrets from me." Her expression softened slightly. "I know you're not evil, Reggie. You're just a man who got powers as a kid and never learned how to be anything but fast, who made terrible choices and never faced real consequences until it was too late. So what? You think showing me files will make me turn against Vought? They'll kill me." "They're already killing you." Livewire gestured to the Compound V injector. 6 months. That's what their private medical assessments give you. 6 months before your heart explodes mid-race or your powers burn out completely. Then you're just another failed experiment they'll bury and forget. A-Train felt cold despite the summer heat. "You're lying." "I'm really not." She pulled up more files, medical projections, mortality statistics for Supes with power degradation. "But here's what I'm offering. Help me take down Vought and I'll help you survive. There's a doctor, not on Vaught's payroll, who specializes in Compound V rehabilitation. He can't restore your powers, but he can save your life." "Powers are all I have," A-Train said bitterly. "No, they're all Vought convinced you to value, but you're more than your speed, Reggie. You're a person who made mistakes and can still choose redemption." Livewire's eyes blazed with electric intensity. "Robin Ward is dead. You can't undo that, but you can honor her memory by being better, by helping ensure Vought never creates another you. A train slumped against the alley wall, the weight of years crashing down on him. What would I have to do? Information. You attend 7 meetings, internal briefings. You have access to schedules, security protocols, Homelander's patterns. She moved beside him, her presence oddly comforting despite the danger she represented. I need inside intelligence, and when the time comes, I need you to stand with us against the 7. Against Homelander, A-Train laughed bitterly. That's suicide. Maybe, but at least you'll die for something that matters instead of on a racetrack. Another Vought casualty swept under the rug. Livewire offered her hand. What's it going to be, Reggie? Die as A-Train, corporate puppet and accidental murderer, or live as Reggie Franklin, the man who helped bring down the most corrupt empire in history? A-Train stared at that crackling hand for a long moment. Every instinct screamed to run, to report this to Vought, to maintain his position in the 7. But he could feel his heart struggling, feel the compound V burning through his system like acid. He thought of Robin Ward's broken body, of Huey's screams, of all the times he'd looked away from Homelander's atrocities because it was easier than confronting them. He thought of his brother, who had believed A-Train was a real hero before Vought broke him. Slowly, Reggie Franklin took Livewire's hand. The electricity didn't hurt. It felt like possibility. I'm in, he said quietly, but if Homelander finds out? He won't. I'll protect you digitally, scrub surveillance, corrupt files, create alibis. To Vaught's systems, this conversation never happened. She released his hand. First intelligence drop, tomorrow night. There's a facility on the city's edge where Vought keeps failed experiments. I need complete security protocols, shift changes, response times. You're going to break them out. I'm going to free the ones who deserve freedom and end the suffering of those too broken to save. Vought created monsters and locked them away. I'm going to give them a choice or a mercy. Her form began to dissolve into electricity. Check your personal email, not the Vought account, the one you think is secret. I'll send a secure contact method. How do you know about? I know everything, Reggie. Get used to it. Her voice came from everywhere now. And Reggie, if you betray me, if you go to Vought or Homelander, I won't kill you. I'll just release every file I have on your involvement in Robin's death and the dozen other cover-ups you've been part of. Vought will throw you to the wolves to protect themselves. Then she was gone, leaving A-Train alone with his compound V and his choices. He looked at the injector in his hand. 6 months, she had said. 6 months to live if he kept serving Vought. Or however long it took to burn their empire down if he chose differently. Reggie Franklin threw the compound V injector against the wall, watching it shatter. For the first time in years, he felt like himself. Across the city, in a penthouse that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime, Homelander stood before floor-to-ceiling windows, watching his city with proprietary satisfaction. His city, his domain, his kingdom of adoring subjects who worshipped him as the god he was. Except someone new had arrived, someone who hadn't asked his permission, someone who was making him look foolish by evading Vaught's detection systems. Sir, Ashley Barrett, Vaught's terrified head of superhero management, spoke from the doorway. We have an update on the unknown Supe. And Homelander didn't turn around. A-Train reported making contact. She approached him in an alley, but he managed to escape before she could attack. He got a good look at her. Female, late 20s, electrical manipulation powers. Homelander smiled. Ashley had no idea she was delivering a lie. A-Train had reported exactly what Livewire had told him to report. A brief, hostile encounter that revealed nothing useful. Did he get a name? No, sir. She disappeared before he could gather more intelligence. Of course she did. Homelander's eyes began to glow red with irritation. Because we're surrounded by incompetence. A train, the supposed fastest man alive, couldn't even track one woman. Sir, her powers make her difficult too. I don't want excuses, Ashley. I want results. He finally turned to face her and she flinched at his expression. I want to know who this bitch thinks she is, appearing in my city, causing disruptions, avoiding us like we're beneath her notice. Mr. Edgar has authorized expanded search parameters. We're monitoring all power grid fluctuations, analyzing. Edgar, Homelander spat the name like poison. Edgar treats this like a business problem. This is a territorial threat. She's here for a reason, and I guarantee it has nothing to do with Vought's stock price. He moved closer to Ashley, who pressed herself against the doorframe. I want every camera, every sensor, every piece of surveillance equipment focused on finding her. And when we do, I want her brought directly to me. Not Edgar, not some containment team. Me. Yes, sir, absolutely. Good, now get out. Ashley fled. Homelander returned to his window, his reflection staring back at him, perfect, powerful, beloved by millions. But beneath that perfect exterior, something festered. Uncertainty. An emotion he wasn't accustomed to feeling. This unknown woman represented a variable he couldn't control, a potential threat he couldn't immediately neutralize. It made him feel almost human, and he hated it. Where are you? He whispered to his reflection. What do you want? If he had known Livewire was watching through the building's security system, listening to every word, recording every detail for future use, he would have been even more unsettled. But that was the advantage of being the machine. You saw everything while remaining invisible. That night, in the underground safe house, the boys made final preparations for their assault on Vought's experimental facility. Layout is simple, Butcher explained, spreading blueprints across the table. 3 floors. Top floor is administration, minimal security. Mostly researchers. Second floor is containment, heavily secured, armed guards, reinforced cells. Basement is maximum security. The real monsters are kept there. How many subjects? Mother's Milk asked. According to the files Livewire pulled, 47 total. Maybe half are dangerous enough to require permanent sedation. The others are just broken. Butcher's expression darkened. Vought's failed experiments. Kids they injected with Compound V who developed powers but not the stability to be marketable. Huey looked sick. They're children. Some. Others are adults who volunteered for Vought's trials and got more than they bargained for. All of them are victims. Butcher met each person's eyes. We go in, we assess each subject individually. The ones who can be saved, we extract. The ones too dangerous or too far gone. We end it, Frenchie finished quietly, quickly and humanely. Kimiko signed something sharp. Frenchie nodded. She says we're not executioners. We should at least try to save everyone. And if one of them has powers that could level a city block, Mother's Milk challenged gently. If they're completely insane from years of torture and experimentation, we just let them go. Kimiko's hands moved angrily. Frenchie translated. She says that's what Vought told themselves when they locked these people away. That some victims aren't worth saving. The room fell silent. Finally, Livewire materialized from the electrical system, her presence commanding immediate attention. Kimiko's right, she said. We don't decide who lives and dies based on convenience or fear. But she's also wrong. Some people are beyond saving. Not because they're not worth it, but because they're suffering and there's no treatment, no cure, only prolonged agony. She looked at Kimiko directly. Your brother was kidnapped and turned into a weapon. You got him back, but he was already gone. The person he'd been had been tortured out of existence. When he died, was it a tragedy, or was it a release? Kimiko's expression crumpled. Frenchie put a protective arm around her. I'm not being cruel, Livewire continued gently. I'm being honest. Tomorrow, we're going to find people who are barely human anymore. People who beg for death every moment they're conscious. People whose powers are killing them slowly. We owe them the truth. Some prisons have only one exit. So who decides? Huey asked. Who gets to choose who lives and who dies? I do. Leslie's voice was steel. I'll evaluate each subject. I'll make the call. And I'll carry that weight for the rest of my life. None of you have to have that blood on your hands. Bullshit, Butcher said flatly. We're in this together. We share the burden and the guilt. That's what makes us different from Vought. We don't hide from consequences. The others nodded agreement. Even Kimiko, though her hand signed reluctant acceptance. All right then, Livewire said. We go in at 200 hours. A train provided security schedules. Guard shift change at 1:45, minimum personnel until 600. We'll have a 4-hour window to extract whoever we can and destroy the facility. Destroy it? Huey questioned. Completely. No evidence left. No chance of Vought rebuilding. Her eyes flickered with electric fury. This place represents everything wrong with Vought, the experimentation, the commodification of human beings, the casual disposal of anyone who doesn't meet their standards. We burn it all. Homelander will respond, Mother's Milk warned. Let him. The more aggressive he gets, the more unstable he appears. We're playing a long game, making him reveal his true nature piece by piece until even Vought can't protect him anymore. Livewire pulled up holographic displays showing news feeds and social media. Public opinion is already shifting. People are starting to question the Seven. One major incident, one undeniable proof of Homelander's monstrosity, and the whole facade crumbles. And if he comes after us directly before we're ready, Butcher pressed. Then I stop him. Livewire's form crackled with barely contained power. I've fought Superman, a genuine hero with Homelander's power set but none of his weaknesses. I know how to fight flying bricks. And Homelander has vulnerabilities Superman never had, psychological fractures, narcissistic rage, desperate need for approval. She looked at each of them. I'm not saying it will be easy. I'm not saying some of us won't die, but we can win this. We can take down Vought, expose their crimes, and show this universe what accountability looks like. And after, Frenchie asked. After Vought falls, after Homelander is dead or depowered, what then? What fills the void? Livewire was quiet for a moment. I don't know. In my world, the Justice League maintained order. Heroes who genuinely tried to protect people. But this universe doesn't have that foundation. Maybe nothing replaces Vought. Maybe that's better. No centralized power, no corporate caunt. Ral over heroes. Anarchy, Mother's Milk said skeptically. Freedom, Livewire countered. People choosing their own protectors. Local communities deciding what justice means to them. It won't be perfect, but it will be real. Butcher raised his glass. To burning it all down and hoping something better grows from the ashes. They drank to that, a toast to destruction and uncertain futures. Hours later, as they approached the facility in a stolen van, Livewire's consciousness spread through the building's systems. She saw everything. Guards on patrol, researchers working late, and in the containment cells. Horror, absolute horror. Children with their bodies twisted by forced mutation. Adults whose powers had physically deformed them into barely recognizable shapes. Test subjects kept in medically induced comas because their consciousness was too painful to endure. All of them filed and categorized like inventory, specimens, resources. Vaught's hidden shame. Jesus Christ, Huey whispered, seeing the same feeds Livewire was broadcasting to their devices. No, Livewire said quietly. Christ isn't anywhere near this place. Only devils wearing lab coats. The van stopped a block away. They moved in dark clothing, armed with weapons and equipment. Livewire disabled security systems remotely, creating blind spots in surveillance, locking doors to delay response teams. They entered through a maintenance access. The facility was eerily quiet, the silence of suffering too profound for screaming. First floor cleared easily. Researchers who surrendered were zip-tied and left alive. Those who reached for weapons were handled with quick efficiency. No unnecessary killing, but no hesitation either. Second floor was harder. Guards in body armor prepared for potential escapes, but Livewire flowed through their communications, creating confusion, sending false alerts that split their forces. Butcher's team moved like shadows, years of Black Ops experience guiding each movement. They reached the containment cells. Oh God, Mother's Milk breathed, seeing the subjects up close. A teenage girl whose skin had become crystalline, sharp enough to cut anyone who touched her. She cowered in the corner, whimpering. A man whose body phased randomly between solid and incorporeal, causing him constant agony as his molecules couldn't stabilize. A child, couldn't have been more than 8, whose eyes glowed with uncontrolled heat vision, forcing them to keep his eyes permanently covered. Start the extraction, Livewire ordered, her voice tight with controlled rage. Anyone stable enough to move, we take. Anyone in too much pain. She didn't finish, didn't need to. They worked quickly. The crystalline girl was wrapped carefully in protective materials. She was terrified but coherent, could be saved. The phasing man begged them to end it, his body tearing itself apart at the molecular level. Frenchie gave him an overdose of morphine, peaceful, quick. The child with heat vision had been sedated for so long his mind was gone. Just breathing, existing, suffering. Livewire knelt beside him, placing her hand on his small chest. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry they did this to you. Electricity flowed from her into him, not painful, just stopping. His heart slowed, then stopped. Release from a prison he never deserved. Tears streaked down her face, but she didn't allow herself to stop. Couldn't. 20 more cells to check, 20 more decisions. By the time they reached the basement level, they had extracted 17 subjects capable of rehabilitation and granted mercy to 8 too far gone. Each death weighed on them, but each life saved balanced the scale slightly. The basement contained the truly dangerous, subjects whose powers threatened everyone around them. A man who generated toxic radiation constantly. His cell was lead-lined, his body ravaged by his own abilities. A woman whose touch disintegrated matter, forcing her into complete isolation. These we can't save, Livewire said, studying the files. Their powers make integration impossible. They'll either hurt people accidentally or be hunted their entire lives. So we kill them, Huey challenged, horrified. We offer them a choice. Livewire accessed the intercom systems. My name is Livewire. I'm here to shut down this facility. I can offer you 2 options. We extract you and try to find a way for you to live isolated but free, knowing it means constant danger and loneliness. Or I can end your suffering here peacefully. Silence. Then the radiation man's voice, weak and tired. How long would I have if you took me? Months maybe. Your power is killing you, I can't stop that. And if you end it? Seconds, no pain, just sleep. More silence. Then, I've been in this cell for 4 years. I haven't touched another person, haven't felt the sun. If I only have months anyway, please, I'm tired. Livewire felt something break inside her, but she kept her voice. See steady, you're sure? I'm sure, thank you for asking. That's more dignity than Vought ever gave me. She killed him gently, stopped his heart with a precise electrical pulse. He slumped in his chair, and for the first time in years, his expression was peaceful. 3 others made the same choice. 2 chose extraction, accepting uncertain futures over certain death. Time to go, Butcher said as alarms began to wail. Vought's response teams are mobilizing. They moved toward the exit, their rescued subjects supported between them. Livewire stayed behind, her form expanding into pure electricity. What are you doing? Huey called back. Making sure this never happens again. She flowed into the facility's power systems, every wire, every circuit, every electrical component. Then she reversed the current, overloading everything simultaneously. Explosions rippled through the building. Fires erupted. The entire structure began to collapse as electrical systems melted, supports failed, containment fields died. Livewire rode the destruction outward, reforming beside the van as the facility became an inferno behind them. Drive, she said quietly. They drove. Behind them, Vought's experimental facility burned. 17 lives saved, 13 granted mercy, and 1 more sin added to Vought's ledger, 1 more crime that would be avenged. In Vought Tower, alarms woke Stan Edgar from sleep. He listened to the report with cold fury. The facility has been completely destroyed. Early estimates suggest the unknown Supes was responsible. How many subjects? All accounted for, some extracted, others casualties. Edgar's jaw tightened. This is war then, she's declared war on Vought. What are your orders, sir? Activate the contingency protocols. I want every asset mobilized. And tell Homelander, he paused. Tell Homelander he has authorization to use lethal force. The war had begun, and blood would be the price of every battle that followed. The news broke at dawn. Major fire at undisclosed Vought facility. Possible casualties. Investigations ongoing. Vought's PR machine immediately spun it as an industrial accident, faulty wiring, tragic but unavoidable. But the truth spread through darker channels. The boys had encrypted footage, recordings of the cells, evidence of experimentation. Livewire began distributing it carefully through anonymous networks, to journalists who couldn't be bought, to activists who had been fighting Vought for years. The world started to see cracks in the facade. In the Seven's conference room, Homelander stood at the head of the table, his expression promising violence. The other members sat in varying states of unease. This mystery Supe, Homelander began, his voice deceptively calm, destroyed a Vought facility last night, killed our property, stole our assets, and you're all sitting here like this is just another Tuesday. To be fair, the Deep offered nervously, we don't actually know it was her, could have been. Homelander's eyes flashed red. The Deep's words died in his throat. It was her, Homelander continued. The energy signatures match, the electrical disruptions. This bitch is making fools of us, making a fool of me. Queen Maeve watched carefully, her face neutral. Inside, her heart pounded. She had known about the raid. Livewire had given her advanced warning. Now she had to sit here, pretending ignorance, while Homelander worked himself into a murderous rage. "So what's the play?" A-Train asked, his voice steady despite his racing thoughts. He too had known. He too was playing a dangerous double game. "The play," Homelander said, moving behind Starlight's chair with predatory grace, "is that we find her. We make an example. We show this city, this country, this world that you don't fuck with the Seven." Starlight met his eyes in the reflection of the glass table. "And if she's actually trying to help people, the reports say she rescued subjects from that facility." "Rescued?" Homelander laughed, harsh and cold. "She stole Vought property. She destroyed company assets. She's a terrorist, Annie, and we don't negotiate with terrorists." "But what if?" "Are you questioning me?" Homelander leaned down, his face inches from hers. "Are you suggesting we should sympathize with someone attacking us?" Starlight forced herself not to flinch. "I'm suggesting we know her motives before we declare war, if she's genuinely trying to expose wrongdoing." "There was no wrongdoing." Homelander slammed his hand on the table, cracking the glass. "Vought researches Compound V tests new formulas. Sometimes subjects don't respond well. That's science. That's progress." Maeve spoke up, her tone carefully neutral. "Homelander's right. We need to find her and neutralize the threat, but we should be strategic. If we go in aggressive and she's actually sympathetic, we create a martyr." Homelander studied her suspiciously. "Since when do you care about public perception?" "Since our stock prick. E dropped 3 points this morning because of rumors about that facility." Maeve held his gaze. "I care about Vaught's bottom line, which means I care about controlling the narrative." It was the perfect answer, appealing to corporate interests rather than morality. Homelander nodded slowly. "Fine, we do this smart. We find her. We determine if she can be bought, controlled, or eliminated. Ashley is coordinating with intelligence teams. A-Train, you're our fastest asset. You lead the search." A-Train nodded, hiding his dread. "On it." "Black Noir, your backup. If A-Train locates her, you support. Non-lethal capture if possible. Lethal force if she resists." Homelander's smile was cruel. "I want her alive. I want to look in her eyes when I show her what happens to people who challenge me." Black Noir nodded silently. His loyalty was absolute, or at least, that's what everyone believed. "Maeve, Starlight, you're on damage control. Public appearances. Reassure the city that the Seven are in control, that they're safe, that this is just a minor disruption." "And you?" Maeve asked. "I'm going to review every second of surveillance footage personally, study her patterns, learn her weaknesses." His eyes glowed faintly. "And when I find her, I'm going to break her so completely she'll beg for death." The meeting ended. The Seven dispersed to their assignments, but in the hallway, Starlight pulled Maeve aside. "We need to talk," Annie whispered urgently. "Not here, too many cameras." They moved to a maintenance stairwell, one of the few blind spots in Vought Tower. The moment they were alone, Annie's composure cracked. "He's going to kill her. You heard him. This isn't about justice or protection. This is about his ego." "I know," Maeve's voice was tight. "So what do we do?" Maeve studied the younger woman carefully. Annie still had ideals, still believed in heroism despite everything Vought had shown her. That made her dangerous, to herself and to their plans. "How much do you know?" Maeve asked carefully. "About what?" "About Livewire, about what she's really trying to do." Starlight's eyes widened slightly. "You know her, you've had contact." Maeve made a decision. Livewire had warned her this moment would come, the choice to bring Starlight into the conspiracy or keep her in the dark. The young woman's reaction in the meeting had decided it. "Come with me," Maeve said. somewhere we can actually talk. They met in Maeve's apartment, swept for bugs daily, protected by technology Livewire had provided. The moment they were inside, electricity crackled and Livewire materialized. Starlight jumped back, power instinctively charging in her hands. "Easy," Maeve said quickly. "She's not here to fight." "She's the one Homelander wants dead," Annie protested. "Homelander wants everyone dead who threatens his power," Livewire replied calmly. "The question is, are you going to help him, or are you going to help me stop him?" Starlight looked between them, confusion and betrayal warring on her face. "Maeve, what is this?" "This is the truth, Annie. The truth about Vought, about the Seven, about what we really are." Maeve moved to the window. "We're not heroes, we're products. Weapons marketed as saviors. And Homelander is the most dangerous weapon of all." "I know he's bad." "Bad?" Livewire interrupted. "Annie, I've read the files. Homelander has murdered hundreds of people, raped women, killed children who saw him do things that would ruin his image. He's not just bad, he's evil. And Vought enables him because he's profitable." Starlight sank into a chair, the weight of it crushing. "The facility you destroyed, was it really that bad?" "Worse." Livewire pulled up holographic images, the cells, the subjects, the evidence of systematic abuse. Children experimented on, people driven insane by forced powers, all of it hidden, sanitized, filed away as acceptable losses. Annie's hands shook as she viewed the images. Her light flickered with emotion. "Why are you showing me this?" she asked quietly. "Because you still have a conscience," Maeve answered. "Because you joined the Seven thinking you'd save people, and you're smart enough to realize you've been lied to. Because we need you, Annie." "Need me for what?" "To take down Vought, to expose their crimes, to stop Homelander before he kills anyone else." Livewire knelt before her. "I'm from another universe, a place where heroes actually exist, where someone like Superman fights for truth and justice without compromise. This world doesn't have that, but it could, if enough people choose to be better." "You want me to betray the Seven, to betray Vought?" "We want you to be the hero you thought you were becoming," Maeve said gently. "The person who saves people, even when it's hard, even when it costs everything." Starlight was quiet for a long moment. Finally, "What would I have to do?" "What you're already doing, be a member of the Seven, but feed us intelligence. Help us predict home. Elander's movements. And when the time comes, when we make our final move against him, stand with us instead of with him." "He'll kill me." "Maybe," Livewire admitted. "This is dangerous. I won't lie about that. But doing nothing while Homelander continues murdering people, that's a different kind of death. The kind where you lose yourself piece by piece until there's nothing left worth saving." Annie looked at her hands, hands that glowed with power. Power she had always believed was a gift, a responsibility, but Vought had tried to turn it into a commodity. "If I do this," she said slowly, "I want one thing." "Name it," Maeve replied. "When this is over, when Vought falls and Homelander is stopped, I want out. I don't want to be a Supe anymore. I don't want fame or power or responsibility. I just want to be Annie January, normal girl from Iowa." Livewire smiled sadly. "I understand that feeling. When this is over, if you want to walk away, I'll help you disappear. New identity, new life. You have my word." Starlight stood, offering her hand. "Then I'm in." They shook on it. 3 women against the most powerful corporation in the world. 3 heroes choosing to be better than the system that created them. "So what's next?" Annie asked. "Next we plan," Livewire said, pulling up strategic maps and intelligence reports. "Vought has 7 major weak points. We've hit one, the experimental facility. Now we need to. Alarms blared. Every electronic device in the apartment sparked. What is that? Maeve demanded. Livewire's expression went dark. That's Vought's security system. Someone just triggered a city-wide Supe alert. They're mobilizing everyone. Who? Livewire accessed surveillance feeds, her consciousness spreading through the city's network. What she saw made her blood run cold. The subjects we rescued. Vought tracked them. They're sending teams to recapture them. Where are they? Annie asked. A safe house in the Bronx. 3 of our people are guarding 17 rescued Supes. Livewire's form crackled with fury. Vought is sending Black Noir and a full tactical team. They'll slaughter everyone. We have to warn them, Maeve said. Already done, but they can't evacuate in time. Vought's team will arrive in 18 minutes. Livewire looked at them both. We need to get there first. All 3 of us, Annie questioned. That'll expose our alliance. I don't care, Livewire snapped. Those people, those victims we rescued, they're not dying because we were too afraid to be exposed. This is exactly what Vought wants, to make us choose between secrecy and saving lives. Maeve nodded grimly. She's right, we go, we protect them, consequences be damned. They moved fast. Maeve and Starlight in civilian clothes, Livewire as pure electricity riding the power lines. 18 minutes to cross the city. 18 minutes to prepare for a battle that would change everything. The safe house was a converted warehouse. Inside, Butcher, Mother's Milk, and Frenchie stood guard over the 17 rescued subjects, traumatized, weakened, terrified people who had just escaped one hell and were about to face another. How long? Butcher demanded into his phone. Black Noir's team is 12 minutes out. Livewire's voice crackled through the speaker. I'm 7 minutes away. Maeve and Starlight are coming as backup. Starlight, Butcher questioned. Since when? Since now, trust me. Defend that position until we arrive. The call ended. Butcher looked at his team. Well, lads, looks like we're about to fight Black Noir. We're dead, Mother's Milk stated flatly. Noir's killed trained soldiers. We're just guys with guns. Then we be smart guys with guns. Butcher began positioning barricades, setting traps. Frenchie, how many explosives do we have? Enough to redecorate, but not enough to stop a Supe. Then we stack advantages. Kimiko, you're our only one with powers. You engage him directly, slow him down. We'll support with everything we've got. Kimiko nodded, her expression fierce. She had been a victim of Vought once. She wouldn't let them reclaim these people. The subjects huddled together. The crystalline girl, the phasing man they'd managed to partially stabilize. A woman who could manipulate shadows but had been sedated for years. All of them weak, scared, but finally free. We're not letting them take you, Butcher promised. Whatever it costs. 10 minutes, 9, 8. Then the power in the building surged, and Livewire materialized in a cascade of electricity. Status, she demanded. Trapped and ready, but we both know traps won't stop him. No, but I will. Livewire moved to the center of the room, electricity beginning to build around her. When he comes through that door, everyone get down. I'm going to hit him with everything I have. 6 minutes, 5. Maeve and Starlight arrived, bursting through a side entrance. What's the play? Maeve asked. Simple, Livewire replied. We don't let them tack. Anyone. No compromise, no surrender. There's a Vought tactical team with Black Noir, Annie warned. 20 soldiers with anti-Supe weapons. Then we make them regret bringing so few. 3 minutes, 2. Silence fell over the warehouse. Everyone tensed, weapons ready, powers charged. 1 minute. The doors exploded inward. Black Noir entered first, silent, deadly, moving with predatory grace. Behind him, tactical teams in black armor, weapons trained on every target. "Stand down," a voice amplified through speakers commanded. "By order of Vought International, all unauthorized Supes are to surrender for processing." "Processing," Livewire said coldly. "Is that what you call torture now?" Black Noir tilted his head, studying her. Then he moved. Faster than human, faster than should be possible. His blades were out, aimed for Livewire's throat. She exploded into electricity, reforming behind him. Lightning arced from her hands, slamming into his armored back with enough force to shatter concrete. Noir stumbled but didn't fall. His armor was insulated, designed for exactly this threat. "Clever," Livewire acknowledged, "but electricity isn't my only weapon." She flowed into the building systems. Every light shattered, every electrical panel exploded. The warehouse became a storm of sparks and shadow. Maeve and Starlight engaged the tactical teams. Maeve's fists shattered armor and bones with equal ease. Annie's light blinded and burned, her righteous fury finally finding proper outlet. Butcher's team provided covering fire, their traps detonating as soldiers advanced. Kimiko tore through armored men like paper, her regeneration letting her ignore their weapons. But Black Noir was the real threat. He moved through chaos like a ghost, his target clear, the rescued subjects. Livewire intercepted him, reforming solid and landing a punch charged with electrical current. Noir's head snapped back, but he rolled with it, his blade slashing across her arm. She felt pain, real sharp pain. His weapons could hurt her even in electrical form. "Interesting," she hissed, backing up. Blood dripped from her wound, crackling with residual energy. Noir pressed his advantage, blade work precise and brutal. He was trained by the best, enhanced by Compound V, and utterly without mercy. But Livewire had fought gods, had dueled with Superman himself, and she had learned that skill mattered as much as power. She became lightning itself, moving at the speed of electricity through power lines. She attacked from every angle, ceiling lights, wall outlets, exposed wiring. Each strike forced Noir to defend, to slow, to react. "Maeve," she shouted, "his armor the joints." Maeve understood immediately. While Livewire kept Noir occupied, she circled behind. One precise strike to the back of his knee, where armor plates met, where flexibility required weakness. Something crunched. Noir went down on one knee. Starlight followed up, her light concentrated into a burning beam that superheated his helmet. Noir's hands flew to his head, trying to remove it before the metal cooked his brain. In that moment of vulnerability, Livewire struck with everything she had. Every electrical system in the warehouse channeled through her, into him, overloading his nervous system and shorting out his armor's protective systems. Black Noir fell, convulsing, his armor smoking. "He's down," Butcher called, "but we've got more problems." Outside, sirens, more Vought teams mobilizing, helicopters approaching. They had minutes at best before overwhelming force arrived. "Everyone out," Livewire commanded. "Maeve, Starlight, get the subjects to the secondary location. The boys know where." "What about you?" Annie asked. "I'm the distraction." Livewire's form began to expand, electricity filling the entire warehouse. "I'll keep them busy, give you time to escape." "That's suicide," Maeve protested. "I'm electricity. I can be everywhere at once. Trust me, I'll be fine." She looked at the rescued subjects. "Get them to safety, that's what matters." They moved. Maeve and Starlight herding the traumatized victims through back exits, Butcher's team providing cover, Kimiko carrying those too weak to run. Livewire waited until they were clear, then she became the storm. Electricity arced through every system in the surrounding blocks. Street lights exploded. Traffic signals died. The entire grid in a quarter-mile radius overloaded. Vought's approaching teams found themselves in total darkness, their vehicles dead, their communications fried. And in that darkness, lightning struck. Not to kill, Livewire was precise, controlled, but to disable, to terrify, to show them that they were hunting something far beyond their capabilities. When she finally dispersed, riding the underground power lines to safety, she left behind a scene of chaos. Vought soldiers unconscious, vehicles destroyed, and Black Noir still twitching from electrical overload. She reformed in a subway station mill. Ease away, her body exhausted, her arms still bleeding from Noir's blade. But they had won, saved the subjects, proven that Vought could be challenged. The war had escalated, but they were still standing. In Vought Tower, Stan Edgar watched footage of the battle with cold calculation. "Analysis," he commanded. An analyst trembled as she spoke. The unknown Supes, Livewire, demonstrated electrical manipulation beyond any previously recorded levels. She incapacitated Black Noir, disabled our entire tactical team, and she had assistance from Queen Maeve and Starlight, sir. Silence. Edgar's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "2 members of the 7, he said quietly, "are working with an enemy combatant against Vought interests." "It appears so, sir." "Activate Protocol 7. I want full surveillance on Maeve and Starlight, track their movements, monitor their communications, find proof of their betrayal. And when we have proof, we make an example." Edgar stood, straightening his tie. "No one betrays Vought, not even gods." He pressed a button on his desk. "Get me Homelander. It's time we had a conversation about loyalty." The pieces were moving. The war was escalating. And soon, very soon, blood would run in rivers through the streets of a city that had forgotten the price of truth. Homelander stood over Black Noir's unconscious body in Vought's medical facility. His fists clenched so tight his knuckles were white. "How long?" he demanded. The electrical damage to his nervous system was severe, the doctor explained nervously. "We're looking at weeks of recovery, maybe months. His armor's circuitry is completely fried. We'll need to rebuild from scratch." "Weeks," Homelander repeated, his voice dropping to something more dangerous than shouting. "Our best hand-to-hand combatant is out for weeks because of one woman." He turned to face Stan Edgar, who had entered with his characteristic calm. "This has gone too far. She's not just some rogue Supe. She's trained, experienced, and she's building an army." "I'm aware," Edgar replied, "which is why we're implementing comprehensive countermeasures." "Countermeasures?" Homelander laughed bitterly. "She just humiliated us in front of the entire city. Footage is spreading across social media. People are calling her a hero, calling us corporate thugs. Our stock dropped 6 points this morning." "I'm aware of that as well." Edgar pulled up holographic displays, financial charts, public opinion polls, threat assessments. "Which is why we're going to do what we do best, control the narrative." He gestured to the screens. "By tomorrow morning, every news outlet will be running stories about a dangerous terrorist calling herself Livewire. We'll have witnesses paid, of course, describing her threatening civilians. We'll have expert analysis explaining how her electrical attacks pose catastrophic risk to the city's infrastructure. We're going to make her the villain," Homelander said slowly, understanding dawning. "Exactly, The public is fickle. Right now they see her as a rebel, a freedom fighter. But when they believe she's threatening their safety, their comfort, their normal lives, they'll beg us to stop her. Edgar pulled up another set of files. But we have a more immediate problem. The surveillance from last night confirms that Queen Maeve and Starlight engaged our tactical teams in defense of Livewire's position. Homelander's eyes began to glow red. They betrayed us. It appears so, which means we need to determine the extent of their involvement and whether other members of the Seven are compromised. I'll handle them, Homelander growled. No, Edgar's voice was steel. You will do nothing until we have a comprehensive strategy. Maeve is too popular to simply eliminate without proof. Starlight is the newest member. Her turning against us would be a devastating PR blow. So what? We just let them conspire against us. We watch them, we gather evidence, and when the moment is right, we expose them as traitors and replace them with more loyal assets. Edgar met Homelander's burning gaze without flinching. Patience wins wars, not rage. Homelander wanted to argue, wanted to fly to Maeve's apartment and burn the truth out of her. But Edgar was right. Uncontrolled violence now would create more problems than it solved. Fine, he said through gritted teeth. We play it smart, but Edgar, when we finally move against them, I want to be the one who delivers justice. Of course, Edgar allowed a thin smile. You're the Seven's leader. The responsibility and the privilege are yours. He left. Homelander remained, staring at Black Noir's unconscious form. Who are you really? He whispered, thinking of Livewire. What do you want? If he had known she was listening through the medical equipment, recording every word, he might have been more careful with his next admission. Because I'm going to find out, and then I'm going to make you watch while I kill everyone you care about, everyone you've recruited to your little rebellion. I'll make them scream your name, begging you to save them, and you'll be helpless to stop me. His reflection in the glass smiled back, perfect, powerful, and completely insane. In a different safe house, the boys gathered with their growing alliance. The 17 rescued subjects were being processed, medical evaluations, psychological support, decisions about their futures. Livewire sat with her arm bandaged, the wound from Black Noir's blade healing slowly. Electricity crackled around the injury, her body trying to repair itself. You need real medical attention, Huey said, looking at the makeshift stitches Frenchie had applied. I'm fine. The wound will close in a few days. Leslie flexed her arm, wincing. Disadvantage of being living electricity, I heal electrically. It's slower than normal regeneration but more thorough. Maeve paced the room, agitated. Edgar knows, he has to know, we weren't exactly subtle. He knows we're working against Vought, Livewire confirmed. My surveillance shows he's implementing counter-surveillance protocols, tracking your movements, monitoring your communications. So we're compromised, Starlight said quietly. Not necessarily. Edgar knowing and Edgar having proof are different things. Right now he suspects. We need to make sure suspicion is all he ever has. Butcher cleared his throat. Speaking of proof, A-Train sent this an hour ago. He pulled up encrypted files on a screen. Internal Vought memos, financial records, communications between Edgar and various operatives. What am I looking at? Maeve asked. Evidence, Livewire replied, scrolling through the data. A-Train has been collecting it for weeks. Every crime, every cover-up, every illegal operation Vought runs. This is the ammunition we need to destroy them publicly. So we release it, Annie suggested. Put it all online. Let the world see what Vought really is. Not yet, Butcher shook his head. We dump this now, Vought's lawyers bury it in litigation. Their media contacts spin it as faked evidence. We need something bigger, something undeniable. Like what? Mother's Milk challenged. Livewire pulled up a specific file, security footage from a Vought black site. The timestamp was 2 years old. The location was classified. The footage showed Homelander in civilian clothes entering an apartment building. Following him were Vought security personnel. Inside the apartment, a woman and her child, a boy, maybe 4 years old. "What is this?" Maeve asked, though dread was already building in her gut. "This," Livewire said quietly, "is the moment Homelander discovered his son." The footage continued. Audio was muted, but body language told the story. The woman terrified, backing away. Homelander advancing, possessive, claiming. Security teams securing the scene, erasing evidence. "Becca Butcher," Butcher said, his voice raw with emotion. "That's my fucking wife." "And your son," Livewire confirmed gently. "Ryan, he's 6 now. Vought has been hiding them in a secure facility, keeping them from you." Butcher's hands shook. Where are they?" "I don't know yet. The facility location is kept offline. No digital records I can access. But A-Train is working on it. He has access to physical files that might contain the information." "So we use this," Starlight said, gesturing to the footage. "We show the world that Homelander has a secret son, that Vought has been hiding it." "It's more complicated than that," Maeve interjected. "If we reveal Ryan exists, we put him in danger. Every enemy Homelander has, and he has many, would target the child. Not to mention," Livewire added, "Homelander would burn the world down to protect his son, or his image, possibly both. No, we can't release this publicly, not yet, but we can use it as leverage." "How?" Frenchie asked. "We extract Becca and Ryan first. Get them somewhere safe, somewhere Vought can't reach. Then we use the threat of exposure to control Homelander's actions. Make him second-guess every violent impulse because he knows we could destroy his perfect image with one video release." Butcher looked at Livewire with newfound respect and desperation. "You can really find them. Get them out." "I can, but I'll need help. Maeve, I need access to physical records in Vought Tower. Annie, I need you to create a distraction during the next board meeting. A-Train is already working his angle. Between all of us, we should be able to locate them within a week." "And then," Butcher pressed, "then we bring your family home." Silence. For the first time since Becca's disappearance, Butcher felt something resembling hope. "Why are you doing this?" he asked Livewire. "You could just kill Homelander, burn down Vought. Why bother with rescue operations and careful planning?" Leslie met his eyes, and in them he saw reflected pain. Losses she had suffered, choices she regretted, chances for redemption she'd never received. Because Superman would have saved everyone. He wouldn't have chosen between victory and innocence. He would have found a way to do both. She looked down at her bandaged arm. "I'm not Superman, but I can try to honor what he taught me. Power without compassion is just cruelty, and I've been cruel enough for one lifetime." "Christ," Butcher muttered, "you're actually serious about this hero thing." "I'm serious about being better than I was. If that makes me a hero, fine. But mostly I'm just trying not to be the villain anymore." Kimiko signed something. Frenchie translated. "She says you already are a hero. Heroes aren't people without darkness. They're people who choose light despite it." Livewire smiled sadly. "I hope you're right." Later that night, Maeve returned to her apartment to find Homelander waiting for her. Her heart nearly stopped, but she forced her expression to remain neutral. "Didn't know we had plans tonight." "We don't," Homelander sat in her chair, perfectly relaxed but radiating danger. "I just wanted to chat, see how you're doing, check in on my favorite team member." Every word was a landmine. Maeve moved carefully to pour herself wine. "I'm fine. Why wouldn't I be?" "Well, you did engage Vought tactical teams in an unauthorized combat situation last night, defended a known terrorist, directly violated company protocol." His smile was sharp. "So I thought you might be stressed." "I responded to a crisis situation." Maeve replied, keeping her voice steady. "Livewire was attacking our personnel. I intervened to stop her." "Funny, the surveillance footage suggests you were fighting alongside her, not against her." "The footage is unclear. It was dark. Electrical interference disrupted cameras. I was trying to protect the subjects, prevent them from being caught in crossfire." "Protect them," Homelander repeated. "The same subjects Livewire stole from Vought property. The same subjects that represent millions of dollars in lost research assets." Homelander stood, moving closer. Maeve forced herself not to back away. "Here's what I think," he continued softly. "I think you and Starlight and possibly others are working with Livewire. I think you're betraying the Seven, betraying me." "That's insane." "Is it?" His eyes began to glow. "Because I've been reviewing your patterns, Maeve, your behavior. You've been distant, questioning orders, and the timing of your apartment security upgrades. Right after Livewire appeared, suspicious." "I upgraded security because there's a dangerous Supe on the loose," Maeve countered. "I'm protecting myself." They stood inches apart. Homelander's heat vision simmered just below the surface, a constant threat. "I want to believe you," he said, and for a moment his voice carried genuine emotion. "You're my friend, Maeve, my oldest team member. We've fought together for years. If I can't trust you—" "You can trust me," Maeve lied, meeting his eyes. "I'm loyal to the Seven, always have been." The moment stretched. Then Homelander smiled and stepped back. "Good, that's good." He moved to her window. "Because Edgar is implementing new security protocols, mandatory psychological evaluations, lie detector tests. He wants to root out any potential traitors in our ranks." "Fine by me," Maeve said, though her blood ran cold. "I have nothing to hide." "Of course you don't." Homelander turned back to her. "Oh, and Maeve, if I find out you've been lying to me, if I discover you really are working with Livewire, I won't be angry, I'll be disappointed. And disappointment makes me so much more creative with punishment." He flew out the window, leaving Maeve alone with her racing heart and her terror. The moment he was gone, electricity crackled and Livewire materialized. "I heard everything," she said. "He knows. Maybe not everything, but he suspects." "What do we do?" Maeve asked, hands shaking as she refilled her wine glass. "We accelerate the timeline. Edgar's implementing lie detectors. That means we have maybe a week before they have proof. We need to move against Vought now." "Now we're not ready." "We'll never be ready," Livewire countered. "But we have what we need. Evidence of Vaught's crimes, rescued subjects willing to testify, internal operatives in the Seven and Vought security. It's enough." "To do what?" "To force a confrontation. To make Vought and Homelander act publicly, violently, in ways that can't be spun or hidden. To turn them from America's heroes into America's villains." Maeve looked at this woman from another universe, this being of electricity and determination, who had somehow convinced her that change was possible. "How?" she asked simply. Livewire smiled, and it was terrifying and hopeful in equal measure. "We give them exactly what they fear most, the truth, complete, undeniable, broadcasted to the entire world. And we do it in a way that even Vought's lawyers and PR teams can't contain. She pulled up schematics, Vought Tower's communication systems, satellite networks, broadcasting equipment. In 3 days, there's a televised event, the Seven's anniversary celebration, global audience, live broadcast, maximum visibility. Homelander will give a speech. Edgar will celebrate corporate success. Everyone will be watching. And we hijack it. We take over every screen, every broadcast, every digital platform. We show the world what Vought really is. The experiments, the cover-ups, the murders, all of it. Undeniable, unavoidable, the truth. Maeve felt adrenaline and terror mixing. That's a declaration of war. It's already war, Livewire replied. This just makes it official. 3 days. 72 hours to prepare for the battle that would reshape the world. The breaking point was coming, and there would be no going back. The next 72 hours passed in a blur of preparation and paranoia. Livewire coordinated operations from within the city's electrical grid itself, her consciousness distributed across 1,000 systems simultaneously. A train fed her intelligence from inside Vought, meeting schedules, security rotations, the locations of key personnel during the anniversary event. Every time he delivered information, he risked discovery. Every transmission could be his last. "You're sure about this?" he asked during a brief, encrypted communication. "Once we go public, there's no protection. Vought will come after all of us with everything they have." "I'm sure." Livewire replied, "Are you?" Reggie thought of his brother, of Robin Ward, of all the people he'd hurt while chasing fame and approval. "Yeah, I'm sure." Maeve and Starlight maintained their covers, attending meetings and public appearances while feeding information to the resistance. The psychological evaluations loomed, scheduled for 2 days after the anniversary event, if they made it that far. "Homelander watches me constantly," Annie reported during a clandestine meeting. "Every word I say, every person I talk to, he's looking for proof." "Don't give him any," Livewire advised. 2 more days, then none of it matters because the whole world will know the truth. Butcher's team prepared for chaos. They stockpiled weapons, identified escape routes, made contingency plans for when Vought inevitably responded with overwhelming force. "This is suicide," Mother's Milk said, not for the first time. "We're poking the bear while standing in its cave." "Aye," Butcher agreed, "but it's a well-planned suicide with a chance of taking the bear down with us." Huey worked on the technical aspects, how to maintain the broadcast signal once they initiated it, how to prevent Vought from cutting the feed, how to ensure maximum global distribution. "I've never hacked anything this big," he admitted to Livewire. "If I miss something, if there's a failsafe I didn't account for." "Then I pick up the slack," Leslie assured him. "You handle the software, I'll handle the hardware. Between us, we'll make sure the truth gets out." Frenchie prepared something special, a chemical compound that would temporarily neutralize Compound V in a Supes system. Not permanent, but enough to level the playing field for crucial minutes. "If it works," he said carefully, "it gives us a chance against Homelander. If it doesn't, then we fight a god with bullets and hope," Kimiko signed. Frenchie didn't translate, but everyone understood. The rescued subjects from the facility were hidden across the city, insurance policies and witnesses if everything went wrong. Each one had recorded testimony about their experiences, their abuse, their imprisonment. Livewire had encrypted copies distributed globally, set to auto-release if her consciousness was disrupted. "You're planning for your own death," Maeve observed during one late-night strategy session. I'm planning for contingencies, Livewire corrected. In my universe, I was arrogant, assumed I was untouchable because I was powerful. Then Superman taught me that power doesn't equal invincibility, just responsibility. You talk about him a lot. He was important to me, even when we were enemies. Leslie's electrical form flickered with emotion. He believed I could be better. I spent years proving him wrong. Now he's gone and I can't ever tell him he was right. Maybe that's the point, Maeve suggested gently. Maybe redemption isn't about earning forgiveness from others. Maybe it's about proving to yourself that you're more than your worst choices. Livewire smiled. When did you become a philosopher? When I started questioning everything I thought I knew. The night before the anniversary event, Homelander called an emergency 7 meeting. We have a credible threat, he announced, his expression grave. Intelligence suggests Livewire plans to attack tomorrow's celebration, disrupt it, possibly target civilians to make a political statement. What kind of intelligence? Starlight asked carefully. The kind that comes from paid informants and surveillance, Edgar replied, entering the room. We've been monitoring chatter in activist circles. Livewire has been recruiting, building an army. Tomorrow's event, with its global visibility, is the perfect target for terrorism. So we cancel, Maeve suggested. Absolutely not, Homelander snapped. We don't let terrorists dictate our actions. We proceed as planned but with enhanced security. Every member of the 7 present and vigilant. Armed response teams on standby. We turn her attack into her downfall. A train shifted uncomfortably. What if she doesn't attack? What if this is disinformation? Then we have a successful anniversary celebration with excellent security, Edgar said smoothly. But I believe she'll come. She's been escalating, becoming bolder. She'll see this as her moment to strike. He was right, of course, just not in the way he imagined. Everyone will be watching, Homelander continued. Which means when we stop her, when we protect innocent civilians from her electrical terrorism, the whole world will see the 7 as the heroes we truly are. Maeve and Starlight exchanged the briefest glance. They both understood Vought was setting up a narrative. Whether Livewire attacked or not, the story was already written. The 7 as defenders, Livewire as villain, public opinion secured. Unless they changed the script entirely. The meeting ended. As the 7 dispersed, Black Noir approached Starlight in the hallway. His silence was oppressive, unreadable. He handed her a note, just 2 words in careful handwriting, I know. Annie's blood went cold. Know what? Noir tilted his head, pointed at her, pointed at Maeve's retreating form, then made a gesture like cutting his own throat. He knew about the conspiracy, about their alliance with Livewire, and he was warning them that discovery meant death. Then he walked away, leaving Starlight trembling in the empty corridor. Was it a threat, a warning, an offer to keep silent? With Black Noir, you could never tell. He was Vaught's perfect weapon, silent, loyal, deadly. Or was he? Annie's phone buzzed. An encrypted message from Livewire. Noir's loyalty is complex. Assume he'll report to Homelander but might hesitate. One more variable in a situation already full of them. The anniversary event dawned clear and bright. Vought Tower's grand ballroom had been transformed into a celebration of corporate excess and superhero mythology. Thousands of guests, politicians, celebrities, media representatives, Vought executives. Outside, tens of thousands more gathered to watch on massive screens. The broadcast would reach 200 million people worldwide. The 7 stood on a stage, resplendent in their costumes. Homelander at the center, his smile perfect, his eyes scanning the crowd for threats. Livewire watched from inside the building's electrical systems. She could see everything: security positions, camera angles, the elaborate setup Vought had created for maximum propaganda value. Everyone in position, she transmitted to her team. Confirmations came back. Butcher's team scattered through the crowd, ready to act. Maeve and Starlight on stage, waiting for their cue. A train mingling with guests, providing real-time updates. Huey in a nearby building, prepared to launch their counter-broadcast. "On my signal," Livewire said, "we show them the truth." Stan Edgar approached the podium, beginning his speech about Vaught's legacy, about the Seven Service, about corporate responsibility and heroic duty. Every word a carefully constructed lie. Livewire let him talk, let him dig deeper into his own mythology, let the audience settle into comfortable illusions about their heroes. Then, when Edgar paused for applause, when cameras were focused on the seven standing proud and united, every screen went dark. For 3 seconds, nothing. Confusion rippled through the crowd. Then, Livewire's voice, broadcast from every speaker, every device, every connected system in the entire city. "My name is Livewire. I am not from this universe. I am not part of your systems, and I am here to tell you the truth about Vought International and the Seven." On every screen, footage began to play. The experimental facility, children in cages, subjects tortured in the name of research, Homelander's private atrocities, a train killing Robin Ward, the deep sexual assaults, Black Noir's assassinations. Years of covered-up crimes, displayed for the world to see. In the ballroom, chaos erupted. Guests screamed. Security mobilized. Homelander's eyes blazed red as he scanned for the source of the broadcast. "Shut it down," Edgar roared into his phone. "Shut down the broadcast now." But Livewire was the broadcast. She existed in every wire, every signal, every transmission. Shutting her down meant shutting down the entire city's infrastructure. "You've been lied to," her voice continued. "The Seven are not heroes, they are products, weapons, carefully marketed illusions designed to make you compliant, afraid, dependent on corporate protection." More footage. Maeve and Homelander letting a plane full of people die. Starlight being coerced into situations that made Annie want to vomit seeing them publicly displayed. Every member of the Seven shown at their worst. "But some of them want to be better," Livewire's voice said. "Some of them are fighting back." The footage shifted. Maeve helping rescue subjects from the facility. Starlight defending innocents. A train feeding intelligence to the resistance. Evidence of the Seven's own members rebelling against Vought. "They are not your enemies," Livewire declared. "They are victims who became jailers who are trying to become free. The real enemy is the system, Vought International, the corporate machine that creates heroes as products and treats people as resources." Homelander had heard enough. His heat vision lanced out, destroying screens, cameras, speakers. But for every device he destroyed, 100 more continued the broadcast. "Find her," he screamed. "Find her now." Livewire materialized on the stage, electricity crackling around her form. The crowd gasped. Cameras, the ones Homelander hadn't destroyed, focused on her. "Here I am," she said calmly. "The terrorist, the villain, the threat to your perfect system." Homelander launched himself at her with murderous intent. Livewire dissolved into electricity, reforming across the ballroom. "I've fought gods before," she taunted. "Real ones, with actual principles. You're just a lab experiment with a god complex." The battle was joined. Homelander's heat vision carved through the ballroom like a scalpel made of pure rage. Livewire danced between the beams, her electrical form allowing her to move at speeds that defied comprehension. Each time he struck where she had been, she was already somewhere else, reforming from light fixtures, emerging from power outlets, existing everywhere the electricity flowed. "Stand still," Homelander roared, his perfect composure finally shattering in front of 200 million viewers. "Why?" Livewire's voice echoed from every speaker. "So you can murder me like you've murdered everyone else who threatened your image." She materialized on the opposite side of the ballroom, fully solid now, electricity crackling around her fists. "Tell them, Homelander. Tell them about the apartment building in Queens, the one that caught fire during your rescue operation. 12 people died. You told the world it was an accident." Footage appeared on the remaining screens, Homelander's heat vision accidentally igniting gas lines while showing off for cameras, people screaming, families burning, and Homelander flying away while Vought's cleanup crews arrived to contain the narrative. "That's a lie," Homelander screamed, but his voice cracked. The perfect hero was fracturing before the world's eyes. "Everything about you is a lie," Livewire countered. She gestured and more footage played, years of atrocities, cover-ups, casual murders. "You're not a hero, you're not even a man. You're a weapon that learned to smile for cameras." Homelander charged again, but this time Maeve intercepted him. Her fist connected with his jaw, sending him spinning across the ballroom. "Maeve," Homelander looked at her with genuine confusion and betrayal. "What are you doing?" "What I should have done years ago," Maeve replied, her voice steady despite her terror. "Stopping you." Starlight joined her, light blazing from her hands. "We're done being your accomplices." The crowd erupted into chaos. Security teams mobilized, but they didn't know who to target: Livewire, the rogue 7 members, or Homelander himself. The carefully constructed narrative had collapsed into bedlam. A train appeared beside Livewire, vibrating with nervous energy. "We need to move. Vought's calling in external assets, military, black ops, everything." "Good," Livewire said coldly. "Let them come. Let them show the world exactly how they respond to truth." She turned to address the cameras directly. "People of this world, you've been shown evidence of Vought's crimes. Now you have a choice. Continue accepting comfortable lies or demand accountability. The age of corporate heroes is over. What comes next is up to you." Then she dissolved into the electrical grid, her consciousness spreading across the city's infrastructure. From her distributed perspective, she could see everything unfolding. Homelander, enraged and cornered, turned his fury on Maeve and Starlight. The 2 women fought desperately, their combined strength barely enough to slow him down. Edgar, fleeing the ballroom with security teams, already on his phone orchestrating damage control and counterattacks. Butcher's team, moving through the chaos to extract key witnesses and evidence before Vought could silence them permanently. And outside in the streets, something unexpected, people rising up, protesters flooding toward Vought Tower, citizens who had just seen behind the curtain demanding answers, justice, consequences. The revolution had begun. In a secure Vought facility 30 miles outside the city, Billy Butcher stood before a reinforced door, his heart pounding harder than it had in any firefight. "This is it?" he asked Livewire, whose voice crackled from a nearby speaker. "This is it. Becca and Ryan are behind this door. I've disabled the security systems, but you've got maybe 5 minutes before Vought realizes and sends reinforcements." Butcher placed his hand on the door, years of grief and rage and desperate hope surging through him. "If this is a trick." "It's not. I promised you get your family back. I keep my promises." The door opened. Inside was a comfortable apartment, too comfortable, too perfect. A gilded cage designed to look like home. And there, standing in the kitchen with a cup of tea, was Becca Butcher. Older than he remembered, marked by years of captivity, but unmistakably his wife. Their eyes met, time stopped. "Billy," her voice broke on his name. "How did you?" He crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling her into his arms. She collapsed against him, years of carefully maintained composure shattering into sobs. "I'm here," he whispered. "I'm here, I'm taking you home." "Ryan," she gasped, "you can't take me without." "We're taking him too, both of you right now." A small voice from the doorway. "Mom, who is this man?" Butcher turned to see a 6-year-old boy with his mother's features but eyes that glowed faintly with unnatural light. Homelander's son, his wife's rapist's child, the boy who represented everything wrong with this world. And also, just a scared kid who didn't understand why strangers were in his home. "Ryan," Becca said gently, moving to her son. This is Billy. He's going to help us. We're going to leave here." But Homelander said we're safe here, that the outside world is dangerous. "Homelander lied," Butcher said, forcing his voice to remain calm despite the rage burning in his chest. "Your mum and I, we used to be married, before Vought took her. I've been looking for her for 8 years, and now I'm taking you both somewhere actually safe." Ryan looked uncertain, his child's instinct sensing the adult's tension. "I don't understand." "You don't have to, mate," Butcher said, kneeling to the boy's level. "You just have to trust that your mum knows what's best for you, and right now that's leaving this place." Livewire's voice crackled urgently. "Butcher, you have 2 minutes. Vought's response teams are en route." "We're going," Butcher confirmed. He looked at Becca. "Can he fly? Does he have powers yet?" "He has some abilities," Becca said carefully. "But he's just a child. He doesn't understand what he is." "Good, let's keep it that way." Butcher scooped Ryan up despite the boy's protest. "Come on, we need to move." They ran through corridors that Livewire had mapped for them, security systems disabled in their wake. Behind them, alarms began to wail as Vought systems detected the breach. They burst into the parking structure where Huey waited in a stolen van, engine running. "Go, go," Butcher shouted, throwing himself and his family into the vehicle. Huey floored it as helicopter searchlights began sweeping the facility. They crashed through a security gate, tires screaming, pursuers mobilizing behind them. "They're following," Huey yelled. "I've got it," Livewire's voice came from the van's radio. Traffic lights ahead began changing in their favor. Pursuing vehicles suddenly lost power, coasting to stops. Helicopters' electronics failed, forcing emergency landings. "This won't hold them long," she warned. "But it'll get you to the rendezvous point. Mother's Milk and Frenchie are waiting with a secondary vehicle. They'll take you to the safe house." "What about you?" Butcher demanded. "What about the others?" "Still fighting, still exposing the truth. Focus on your family, that's the mission now." The transmission cut. Butcher held Becca close, feeling her trembling against him. Ryan watched everything with wide, confused eyes. "It's going to be all right," Butcher promised, though he wasn't sure he believed it. "We're going to be a family again. No Vought, no Homelander, just us." "He'll come for us," Becca whispered. "He'll never stop." "Then we'll be ready, because this time I'm not losing you. Not to him, not to anyone." Butcher's expression hardened with deadly promise. "And if he comes, he'll learn that human rage can be just as dangerous as Supes powers." Back at Vought Tower, the battle had spilled into the streets. Homelander fought like a cornered animal, brutal, desperate, all pretense of heroism abandoned. He had thrown Starlight through a building. Maeve bore burns from his heat vision across her arms and face. But they kept fighting, because if they stopped, if they surrendered, everything they had sacrificed would mean nothing. "You betrayed me," Homelander screamed at Maeve, his voice raw. "I trusted you. You were supposed to be loyal." "I was loyal to the lie," Maeve shot back, slamming him into the pavement with enough force to crater concrete. "Now I'm loyal to the truth." Homelander's laugh was broken, manic. The truth is you're nothing without me, without Vought. You're just another failed hero playing dress-up." "Maybe," Maeve agreed, "but at least I'm trying to be better than I was. What's your excuse?" Around them, the protesters were closing in, thousands of ordinary people, emboldened by what they had seen, demanding accountability. Vought security held them back, but the tide was turning. Then the military arrived. Actual armed forces, deployed by a government that had just watched its greatest heroes revealed as corporate frauds. Helicopters, armored vehicles, soldiers in tactical gear. "Stand down," a voice boomed through megaphones. "All Supes are to cease hostile action immediately." Homelander's eyes blazed. "You think you can order me around? I'm a god, A sniper's bullet struck him in the shoulder. It didn't penetrate, he was still invulnerable, but the impact made him stumble. More bullets followed, concentrated fire from trained marksmen. None of them hurt him, but they made a point. The military was willing to engage. "You're firing on America's greatest hero," Homelander roared at the soldiers. "I've saved millions of lives. You've also murdered hundreds." The commanding officer replied through the megaphone, "Stand down or we will use enhanced ordnance." Enhanced ordnance, military-grade anti-Supe weapons. Vought's own technology, sold to the government for exactly this scenario, now turned against them. Homelander looked around, at the military, at the protesters, at Maeve, and Starlight watching him with defiance rather than fear. At the cameras still broadcasting his breakdown to the world. His perfect image was destroyed, his reputation in ruins. Everything he had built his identity on, the love, the worship, the unquestioning adoration, all of it crumbling. "This isn't over," he promised, his voice dropping to something more terrifying than his rage. "You think you've won. You've only made me stop pretending." He flew straight up, faster than missiles could track, disappearing into the clouds. The sudden silence was deafening. "Did we just win?" Starlight asked incredulously. "No," Livewire's voice crackled from nearby speakers. "We just survived the first battle. Homelander will regroup, Vought will adapt, and the real war is just beginning." She materialized beside them, her electrical form flickering with exhaustion. Maintaining such widespread control of the city's infrastructure while fighting had drained her significantly. "But we showed the world the truth," she continued, "and truth, once released, can't be contained." Stan Edgar emerged from Vought Tower surrounded by armed security, his expression colder than Arctic ice. "You've made a grave mistake," he said, addressing Livewire directly. "Vought International is not some small-time operation you can expose and expect to collapse. We have resources you can't imagine, influence that spans governments, contingencies for exactly this scenario." "I know," Livewire replied calmly. "I've read your files, your contingencies, your backups, your escape plans. You think you're prepared for everything." She smiled. "But you prepared for threats from this universe. You never planned for someone who already knows how your story ends. Because I've seen this pattern before, corporations that grow too powerful, systems that become too corrupt. They always fall eventually. The question is how many people they take down with them." Edgar's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "We'll see." He departed, flanked by security, but Livewire knew he was already implementing his counterattacks, already spinning narratives, already preparing for the long game. Around them, emergency services were arriving to treat the wounded. Media crews, both Vought-controlled and independent, were recording everything. The protesters remained, chanting for justice. A-Train approached, his costume torn, exhaustion evident. "What now?" "Now we consolidate," Livewire said. "We've exposed Vought, but exposure isn't victory. We need to maintain pressure, protect witnesses, prepare for retaliation." "And Homelander?" Maeve asked, touching the burns on her face. "He'll come back, probably worse than before." "Let him come." Livewire's eyes crackled with electric determination. "Next time we'll be ready, because I'm done letting gods get away with murder." She dissolved into the electrical grid, her consciousness spreading to check on all their operations. Butcher had Becca and Ryan, safe for now. The rescued subjects were secured in hidden locations. A-Train's evidence was distributed across multiple platforms, impossible to fully suppress. They had struck a blow against Vought, shown the world the truth, survived the immediate retaliation. But Livewire knew from bitter experience, the hardest battles weren't the explosive confrontations. They were the grinding wars of attrition that followed, the fights where victory meant simply surviving another day. And this war was far from over. In a private bunker far from the city, Homelander sat alone in darkness, his hands clenched into fists. He could hear his son's heartbeat. Even from miles away, he could track Ryan's unique biological signature. They had taken his son, his property, his legacy. "They're going to pay," he whispered to the darkness. "Every single one of them. I'll make them watch their world burn, make them beg for mercy I'll never give." His eyes glowed red, casting the bunker in hellish light. "I'll show them what happens when you try to kill a god." The safe house where Butcher reunited with his family was a converted industrial building in a neighborhood Vought had long since abandoned as unprofitable. 30 floors of reinforced concrete and steel, retrofitted with technology that Livewire had spent hours securing against surveillance. Becca sat with Ryan, trying to explain to a 6-year-old why the world he knew had suddenly changed. Billy watched them, his heart breaking and healing simultaneously with each word. "We can't stay here long," Mother's Milk said, reviewing their security situation. "Vought knows we have them. It's only a matter of time before they triangulate our location." "How long?" Butcher asked, not taking his eyes off his wife and son. "Days, maybe less. Livewire's doing her best to scramble signals, create false leads, but Homelander," trailed off. "He can probably hear the boy's heartbeat from anywhere in the city." "Then we leave the city," Huey suggested. "Take them somewhere remote, somewhere Homelander can't easily access." "Nowhere is remote enough," Frenchie countered. "The boy is his son. He will search the entire world if necessary." Kimiko signed something urgent. Frenchie translated. "She says the only way to truly protect them is to remove the threat, to kill Homelander." "Easier said than done, love," Butcher muttered. "We've been trying for years." Livewire materialized from the building's power systems, her form flickering with exhaustion. The constant battles and infrastructure maintenance across the city were draining her faster than she could recover. "Update," she said without preamble. "Vaught's counteroffensive is in full swing. They're claiming the footage was doctored, that I'm a foreign operative, that Maeve and Starlight were coerced through electrical manipulation of their brains." "People won't believe that," Huey protested. Enough will, or at least enough will want to believe it because the alternative is too frightening. Leslie moved to the window, looking out at the city. Truth doesn't win simply by existing. It has to be defended, reinforced, proven beyond doubt. So what's the play? Butcher asked. We give them something Vought can't spin away, something undeniable. She turned back to the room. We give them Homelander's son. The room fell silent. Ryan looked up from his mother's arms, confused by the sudden tension. Absolutely not, Becca said firmly. You're not using my son as bait. Not bait, Livewire clarified. Proof. Proof that everything we've said about Homelander is true. Proof that Vought has been hiding his existence. Proof that the narrative they're spinning is a lie. He's 6 years old, Butcher growled. We're not parading him in front of cameras. Then how do we protect him? Livewire challenged. How do we keep Homelander from simply taking him back? As long as the boy's existence remains secret, Vought controls the narrative. But if the world knows about Ryan, knows that Homelander has a son he raped Becca to create, then taking him back becomes a public relations nightmare. You're talking about destroying this child's life for strategic advantage, Becca said, her voice shaking with anger and fear. He's innocent. He didn't ask for any of this. None of us did, Livewire replied, her tone softening. But innocence doesn't protect people in this universe. Power does. Information does. Right now, Ryan is a secret Vought wants to keep. We make him a public figure, and suddenly he has protection Vought can't easily eliminate. Butcher looked at his wife, at the son who wasn't his but whom she loved fiercely. Becca, love, what do you want to do? She held Ryan closer, tears streaming down her face. I want my son to have a normal life. I want him to never know what his father is. I want him safe. And if Homelander takes him back, asked gently, if he's raised by Vought, trained to be the next generation weapon. He won't be, Becca insisted. I'll protect him. You can't, Livewire said bluntly. Not alone. Not against Homelander's power and Vought's resources. Your only chance, Ryan's only chance, is if we make his existence so public that harming him or hiding him becomes impossible. Ryan spoke up, his small voice cutting through the argument. Am I bad? Is that why everyone is fighting? Oh, sweetie, no. Becca hugged him tighter. You're not bad, you're perfect. This is about adult things you don't need to understand. But Homelander is my father, right? That's what he told me. Ryan looked around at the adults' faces. And you all think my father is bad, so doesn't that make me bad too? The innocence of the question shattered something in the room. Butcher knelt beside the boy, meeting his eyes. Listen to me, Ryan. Your father, Homelander, he's done terrible things, but you're not him. You're your own person. And the family you choose, the choices you make, that's what defines you, not biology. But I have powers like him. Doesn't that mean I'll become like him? No, Butcher's voice was firm. I've known plenty of Supes who were good people. Your mum raised you. That's what matters, not the powers you were born with. Ryan processed this with the serious consideration only children possess. Okay, then if showing people I exist helps stop him from hurting people, maybe we should do it. The adults exchanged stunned looks. A 6-year-old had just made the strategic decision they had been dancing around. You don't have to do that, Becca said quickly. Baby, you don't have to sacrifice your privacy. You always taught me to help people win. I can, Ryan interrupted. Even if it's scary, isn't this helping people? Livewire felt something crack in her chest. The same feeling she'd had when Superman had kept believing in her despite all evidence he shouldn't. This child, innocent and uncorrupted, choosing to do the hard right thing over the easy wrong thing. "You're a better person than I've ever been," she said quietly to Ryan, "than most people ever are." She looked at Becca. "We do it right. We protect him. We don't show his face, don't reveal his location. We just confirm his existence and provide enough documentation that Vought can't deny it. He becomes a concept rather than a target." "And when Homelander comes for him anyway?" Butcher asked. "Then we stop him permanently." Livewire's electrical form crackled with deadly promise. "I've been studying him. I know his weaknesses now. I know how to hurt him." "He's invulnerable," Frenchie pointed out. "We've tried everything: explosives, armor-piercing rounds, toxins. Nothing touches him." "Everything has a weakness," Livewire countered. "You've been trying to hurt his body, but his real vulnerability is his mind, his psychology. He's a narcissist who needs worship, a sociopath who craves validation, a broken child in a god's body who can't stand being ordinary." She pulled up holographic displays, psychiatric evaluations, behavioral patterns, incident reports. "We can't beat him with strength, but we can break him with truth. Show him that he's not special, not loved, just feared and hated. Make him understand that his entire existence is a lie." "That'll just make him more dangerous," warned. "In the short term, yes. He'll lash out, become more violent, more desperate." Livewire's expression was grim. "But desperation makes people sloppy. And when he's at his worst, when he's demonstrating exactly the monster we've been calling him, that's when we end it." "How?" Butcher demanded. "Even if we break him psychologically, he's still physically unstoppable." Livewire was quiet for a moment. "There's a weapon, something Vought developed but never deployed. Compound V has a weakness, a specific radioactive isotope that degrades its effects at the molecular level. Temporary, but enough." "Why didn't Vought use it?" "Because it's indiscriminate. It affects all Supes in range, including their own assets." She pulled up classified files. "They buried the research, called it too dangerous, but I found it, and I've been synthesizing it." She materialized a small container, lead-lined, glowing faintly from within. "1 dose, enough to depower every Supe within a quarter-mile radius for approximately 30 minutes. Then their abilities return, usually permanently. But 30 minutes without powers is enough to kill Homelander," Butcher finished, his eyes gleaming. "It's enough to kill everyone," Frenchie corrected. "This is a weapon of mass destruction." "Which is why we only use it if there's no other choice," Livewire said. "If Homelander becomes such an existential threat that collateral damage is acceptable, it's the nuclear option. Last resort." Becca shook her head. "You're all talking about murder, about killing Ryan's father in front of him. How is that protecting my son?" "It's protecting everyone's children," Livewire replied. "Homelander has murdered kids before. He'll do it again. As long as he exists, no one is safe. Especially Ryan, who represents both his legacy and his vulnerability." "She's right, Becca," Butcher said heavily. "I don't like it. God knows I don't want Ryan growing up knowing his father died violently. But Homelander alive is a threat to everyone, including Ryan." Becca looked at her husband, at the woman made of electricity who had upended their world, at the team of damaged, desperate people trying to save a universe that had never been kind to them. "Promise me," she finally said. "Promise me you'll try every other option first. Promise me killing him is genuinely the last resort, not just the convenient one." "I promise," Livewire said. "I've killed before. I know what it costs. I won't do it unless there's literally no alternative." "Then I'll allow it, the press release, the revelation, but we protect Ryan. Whatever else happens, we protect my son." "Agreed." Livewire began coordinating their next move. Huey, prepare the documentation. A train will help verify from inside Vought. Maeve and Starlight are drafting their own statements. By tomorrow morning, the world will know about Ryan. And then, asked. Then we see how Vought and Homelander respond, and we prepare for the endgame. The press release went live at dawn. Carefully worded, thoroughly documented, impossible to completely refute. Homelander, America's premier superhero, has a biological son conceived through non-consensual relations with a Vought employee. The child has been hidden by Vought International for 6 years, kept in a secure facility away from public knowledge. This revela Tian is consistent with previously disclosed evidence of Homelander's history of sexual assault and Vaught's systematic cover-up of superhero crimes. Supporting documentation flooded multiple platforms simultaneously: medical records, facility logs, even audio recordings of Homelander discussing his son with Vought executives. All of it obtained by Livewire's infiltration of Vaught's systems, now made public. The world erupted. News agencies scrambled to verify. Social media exploded with speculation. Vaught's stock plummeted another 15 points. And in his bunker, Homelander heard the news and understood. They had taken away his last secret. His son was no longer his alone. He screamed, and the sound was so inhuman that every living thing within 2 miles fled in instinctive terror. "They'll pay," he whispered when his voice returned. "They'll all pay, starting with that electric bitch who started this." He flew into the sky, his eyes scanning the city, listening to every heartbeat, searching for Ryan's unique biological signature. And he found it. Despite Livewire's best efforts to mask it, despite the technological countermeasures, a father's connection to his son proved stronger than electronic interference. "Found you," he smiled, and it was the smile of something that had finally stopped pretending to be human. In the safe house, alarms blared. Livewire's consciousness surged through the building's systems. "He's coming," she announced. "Everyone, evacuation protocol now." But they all knew. Evacuation wouldn't work. Not against someone who could hear his son's heartbeat from miles away. Not against someone who could fly faster than any vehicle they had access to. This was it. The confrontation they had been dreading and preparing for. Butcher grabbed his rifle, useless against Homelander, but he grabbed it anyway because doing something was better than doing nothing. Becca held Ryan close, whispering reassurances she didn't believe. Livewire stood at the window, electricity crackling around her form with an intensity that made the lights flicker and dim. "If this goes bad," she said to Butcher, "if I can't stop him, use the isotope, depower him, do what needs to be done." "What about you?" Butcher asked. "That weapon affects all Supes." "I know," Livewire smiled sadly. "I'm from another universe. Maybe the rules are different for me, or maybe I'll lose my powers too. Either way, stopping him is what matters." The skylight exploded inward. Homelander descended like an avenging angel, his cape billowing, his eyes burning with heat vision barely contained. "Hello," he said softly, his gaze finding Ryan immediately. "Did you really think you could take my son from me?" "He's not your son," Becca said, standing between Homelander and Ryan. "He's mine. You're just a donor, a rapist, nothing more." Homelander's expression flickered, hurt, rage, confusion. "I gave him life. I gave him power. He's special because of me." "He's special despite you," Livewire countered, stepping forward to draw Homelander's attention. "Ryan chose to help stop you. A 6-year-old has more courage and moral clarity than you've ever possessed." "You," Homelander focused on her fully for the first time. "You're the one who started this. who ruined everything, who turned my own team against me. No, Livewire replied calmly. You ruined everything yourself. I just showed the world what you really are, a monster playing dress-up. I'm a god, Homelander roared. Gods don't need worship. Gods don't need validation. Gods don't break down when people stop loving them. Leslie's eyes blazed with electric fury. You're not a god. You're a scared little boy who never learned that power and worth aren't the same thing. Homelander's heat vision lanced out. Livewire dissolved into electricity, the beams passing through where she had been. She reformed behind him, lightning crackling from her hands and slamming into his back. He stumbled more from surprise than pain and spun to face her. You can't hurt me, he said. I'm invulnerable. Maybe, but I can make you feel something you've probably never experienced. Livewire's form expanded, electricity flowing through every system in the building. I can make you feel helpless. Every light exploded. Every electronic device overloaded. The building's entire electrical infrastructure channeled through Livewire into Homelander, billions of volts concentrated into a single point. It wouldn't kill him, probably wouldn't even seriously hurt him. But for the first time in his existence, Homelander felt something that made his invulnerable flesh crawl. Pain. Not physical agony. His body was too durable for that, but neurological overload. His enhanced senses receiving more input than even his suit brain could process. Every nerve firing simultaneously, every synapse overloading. He screamed, and in that scream, everyone heard what he truly was beneath the costume, a frightened, broken thing that D never learned how to be human. Everyone out, Livewire commanded. Now. Butcher grabbed Becca and Ryan, MM and Frenchie providing cover as they fled down emergency stairs. Huey had a vehicle waiting 3 blocks away. Livewire maintained her electrical assault, pouring everything she had into overwhelming Homelander's nervous system. She could feel herself burning out, her consciousness fragmenting from the effort. But she held him, just long enough for the others to escape. When she finally released him, she collapsed to her knees, her electrical form flickering dangerously between solid and energy. Homelander stood, smoke rising from his costume, his eyes wild with rage and something that might have been fear. What did you do to me? His voice was small, confused. I showed you what it feels like to be vulnerable, Livewire replied, struggling to maintain coherence. To not be in control, to be at someone else's mercy. I'm going to kill you for that. Maybe, but not today, Livewire smiled. Because today you lost your image, lost your son, lost your power over people. You're still physically strong, but you're weak where it matters, and everyone can see it now. They'll forget, Homelander insisted, but his voice cracked. They'll remember I'm special, that I'm better than them. You're not better than anyone, Livewire said sadly. You're just broken, and unlike your invulnerable body, some things can't be fixed. She dissolved into the electrical grid, her consciousness escaping through power lines before Homelander could recover enough to pursue. He stood alone in the destroyed safe house, his son gone, his certainty shattered, his godhood revealed as the costume it had always been. And for the first time in his life, Homelander felt truly, terrifyingly alone. 3 days after the confrontation, Vought International held an emergency board meeting. Stan Edgar stood before shareholders, his expression calm despite the chaos surrounding the company. Gentlemen, ladies, he began, we face an unprecedented crisis. Our stock has fallen 32%. Multiple governments are investigating our practices. Public trust in the Seven is at an all-time low, but this is not the end. This is an opportunity. He pulled up strategic projections. Vought has survived scandals before. We adapt, we rebrand, we emerge stronger. The key is controlling the narrative moving forward. How do you control this narrative? A shareholder demanded. The evidence against us is overwhelming. Homelander is exposed as a monster. Our entire business model is compromised. By doing what we've always done, giving people what they want, Edgar smiled thinly. They want accountability. We give them accountability. We publicly distance ourselves from Homelander, position him as a rogue actor who manipulated Vought rather than a product we created. We make him the villain in our story of redemption. And the Seven. We rebuild. New heroes. New image. We call it the new Seven, younger, more diverse, carefully vetted for psychological stability. We make our previous failures part of our marketing. Vought International, learning from our mistakes to build better heroes. That's insane, another board member protested. You're suggesting we profit from the catastrophe we created. I'm suggesting we do what corporations have done throughout history, adapt or die. Edgar's eyes were cold. Vought is too big to fail. We have government contracts, international operations, decades of infrastructure. We weather this storm and we come out stronger. What about Homelander himself? Edgar paused. Homelander is now a liability. We will publicly revoke his membership in the Seven. We will offer full cooperation with any legal proceedings against him. And if necessary, he left the implication hanging. You're talking about killing him, someone said quietly. I'm talking about removing an asset that has become a threat to corporate survival. We have protocols for this scenario. What Edgar didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Livewire was in their systems, recording every word. And she was broadcasting it live to carefully selected journalists, activists, and government officials. The world heard Vought's board casually discussing the murder of their greatest hero, heard them plotting to profit from their own corruption, heard them confirm everything Livewire had accused them of. The backlash was immediate and catastrophic. Homelander, alone in his penthouse, watched the news footage of Vought's board meeting being leaked, watched them discuss him like he was broken equipment to be discarded. They had created him, raised him, made him everything he was, and now they were throwing him away to save themselves. After everything I did for them, he whispered, after all the times I saved their profits, their image, their company. His hands clenched, the glass in his hands shattered. They're all the same, all of them. They use me and throw me away. Mother's milk, Maeve, Vought, everyone. He thought of Ryan, his son, taken from him. The one person who should have loved him unconditionally, now taught to see him as a monster. If I'm the monster they want, he said to his reflection, then I'll be the monster they deserve. He flew from the penthouse heat vision, destroying the windows as he departed. His destination, Vought Tower. If they wanted to discard him, he would remind them what he was capable of, would show them the cost of betraying a god. Livewire detected his trajectory immediately. He's going to Vought Tower, full assault. He's past pretending. Can you stop him? Butcher asked through encrypted communication. Not alone, but I won't have to. She pulled up tracking data on multiple Supes. Maeve and Starlight are en route. A train is providing support, and I've been preparing something special. The isotope. If necessary. But first, we try to reach him. Try to make him understand he doesn't have to destroy everything. You really think that'll work? Butcher asked skeptically. No, Livewire admitted, But Superman would try, so I have to try. She materialized at Vought Tower seconds before Homelander arrived. She stood alone on the roof, electricity crackling around her, a storm given human form. Homelander landed 50 feet away, his cape settling around him, his eyes glowing with barely contained fury. "You," he said simply. "Me," she agreed. They stared at each other, two beings of immense power, representing completely different philosophies. "I'm going to kill everyone in that building," Homelander said conversationally. "Everyone who decided I was disposable, everyone who used me, and then I'm going to find my son and take him somewhere they can never reach us." "No, you're not," Livewire replied calmly. "And how exactly are you going to stop me?" "By giving you a choice. You can destroy Vought, kill everyone who hurt you, become the monster they always feared. Or," she paused, "or you can choose to be better than what they made you." Homelander laughed, and the sound was broken glass and shattered dreams. "Better? There is no better for me. I'm what they created. A weapon, a god, a monster, take your pick." "You're a person," Livewire countered. "A damaged, traumatized person who never learned how to process emotions or form genuine connections, but still a person, with the capacity to choose." "Choice?" Homelander spat. "They took my choices away, raised me in a lab, told me I was special while treating me like an experiment, made me love them while they saw me as property." "I know," Livewire said, and her voice carried genuine compassion. "I've read your files. I know what they did to you. How they raised you in isolation, tested your limits, conditioned your behavior. You never had a childhood, never had love without conditions, never learned to be human. So you understand why I'm going to burn it all down." "I understand why you want to, but understanding and condoning are different things." She stepped closer. "You've been a victim, Homelander, but that doesn't give you the right to create more victims. That just perpetuates the cycle." "What would you have me do?" Homelander demanded. "Walk away, forgive them, pretend everything is fine?" "No, hold them accountable through proper channels. Testify against Vought. Help expose the entire system that created you. Use your story to prevent others from suffering the same abuse." "That's weak," Homelander sneered. "That's human weakness. I'm not human, I'm more." "You're less," Livewire said bluntly, "because you never learned the strength that comes from vulnerability, the power that comes from admitting you need help, the courage that comes from choosing compassion over revenge." Homelander's eyes blazed red. "Last chance, get out of my way." "No." He attacked. Heat vision, super speed, overwhelming strength, everything that made him the most powerful supe alive. Livewire met him with electricity and skill. She had fought Superman, someone with identical powers but none of Homelander's psychological weaknesses. She knew how to fight flying bricks. The battle raged across Vought Tower's roof. Each of Homelander's attacks was countered, redirected, absorbed. Livewire couldn't match his raw power, but she was smarter, more experienced, more willing to use unconventional tactics. She flowed through his heat vision as pure energy, reformed behind him to deliver electrical strikes to vulnerable points, used the building's infrastructure as a weapon, every metal surface becoming a conduit for her power. But she was tiring. The constant battles, the infrastructure maintenance, the effort of fighting someone as powerful as Homelander, it was burning her out faster than she could recover. Homelander grabbed her midriff form, his invulnerable fingers closing around what passed for her throat. "You can't beat me. No one can." "I don't have to beat you," Livewire gasped. "I just have to slow you down." Maeve and Starlight arrived, slamming into Homelander from both sides. He released Livewire, turning his fury on his former teammates. "Traitors," he screamed, "I trusted you." "And we're sorry for that," Maeve replied, her fists glowing with power. "Sorry we waited so long to stop you." The three-way battle was devastating. Homelander was stronger than either woman individually, but together they could match him. Barely. Buildings shattered from the impacts. The city below evacuated in panic. This wasn't a superhero fight. This was gods at war, and mortals were caught in the crossfire. A train appeared, moving at super speed to evacuate civilians from the immediate danger zone. He couldn't fight Homelander, but he could save the people Homelander might kill accidentally. Livewire pulled herself together, her electrical form barely cohesive. She reached for the lead-lined container she had hidden on the roof, the isotope, the weapon that could depower every Supe in range. "Livewire, don't," Starlight called out, seeing what she was reaching for. "That'll depower all of us. We'll be helpless." "I know," Livewire replied, "but it's the only way to stop him without destroying the entire city." She looked at Maeve. "Get everyone clear, 1 minute, then I release it." "What about you?" Maeve demanded. "I'm electricity. Maybe it won't affect me the same way, or maybe I'll lose my powers too. Either way, this ends today." Maeve wanted to argue, wanted to find another option. But Homelander's heat vision carved through a nearby building, and she knew they were out of time. 1 minute, she agreed. "Then we finish this together." She and Starlight disengaged, flying away from the roof. A train was already blocks away. The civilians were evacuated. Livewire stood alone with Homelander, the isotope container in her hands. "What is that?" Homelander demanded, focusing on the glowing device. "Your equalizer," Livewire replied. "The thing that makes you human. The thing that removes your excuse for being a monster." "You wouldn't dare." She activated it. The isotope released in a wave of specific radiation, invisible but devastating to anyone with compound V in their system. Livewire felt it wash over her, felt her powers flickering, destabilizing, beginning to fade. But she was from another universe. Her powers came from a different source, a different accident. The isotope affected her, but not completely. She remained partially powered, partially coherent. Homelander felt his invulnerability fade, felt his strength drain away, felt his powers, the only thing that had ever made him special, disappear. He looked at his hands in horror. What did you do to me?" "I made you face the truth," Livewire replied, her voice distorted by her failing powers. "That you're not special, not a god, just a man. And now you have to face consequences like any other man." Homelander tried to fly, failed, tried to use heat vision. Nothing, he was ordinary, powerless human. And he couldn't handle it. He screamed, pure, inarticulate rage and grief and terror. The scream of someone whose entire identity had been stripped away. "Kill me," he finally said. "If you're going to take everything from me, just kill me." Livewire looked at him, this broken, damaged man who had never learned to be anything but his powers. And she made a choice. "No," she said, "you don't get the easy way out. You're going to stand trial, face justice. Spend the rest of your life understanding the harm you caused. That's the real consequence. Not death, accountability." She gestured, and suddenly military forces that had been holding back now moved in. Homelander, powerless, overwhelmed, was taken into custody without further struggle. As they led him away, he looked at Livewire one last time. "I hate you." "I know," she replied. "But maybe someday you'll understand I gave you something Vought never did, a chance to be better than what you were." The isotope's effects began to fade after 20 minutes, just as projected. Homelander's powers returned, but he remained in custody, confined in a specially designed cell that Livewire had helped engineer, using technology from her universe's experience containing Kryptonian-level threats. Maeve and Starlight's powers returned as well. Atrain felt his speed come back, stronger than before. The isotope had purged the compound V poisoning from his system, giving him a fresh start. And Livewire, her powers stabilized at a new equilibrium, not weaker but different, more controlled, as if the isotope had burned away excess chaos and left only focused potential. Vought International collapsed within a week. The board was arrested. Edgar faced multiple charges. The Seven was officially disbanded. The world had to rebuild its entire understanding of heroes. 6 months later, the trials had concluded. Homelander was sentenced to life imprisonment in a facile. ID designed specifically to contain him, not as a hero who had fallen, but as a criminal who had hidden behind a costume. Stan Edgar received 25 years for conspiracy, fraud, and accessory to murder. Most of Vaught's board faced similar sentences. The corporation itself was dismantled, its assets seized, its technology restricted. The rescued subjects from the experimental facility received compensation, therapy, and support to rebuild their lives. Some chose to use their powers to help others. Some chose to hide their abilities and live normal lives. The choice was theirs, finally, truly theirs. Leslie Willis stood in a park in Metropolis, not her metropolis, but close enough to make her heart ache. She had chosen not to return to her universe, even though she believed it was possible. That world had Superman. This one needed someone willing to fight for truth. Maeve approached, no longer in costume. Just Maggie Shaw, wearing civilian clothes, holding hands with Alina. "Thought I'd find you here," Maggie said. "I like this spot, reminds me of home," Leslie smiled. "How are you adjusting?" "To being retired, to being honest with Alina, to sleeping without nightmares," Maggie laughed softly. "It's strange. I spent so many years as Queen Maeve that I forgot how to be Maggie Shaw. Now I'm remembering." "That's good, you deserve happiness." "So do you," Maggie studied her friend. "You saved this world, Leslie. You exposed corruption, stopped a monster, gave people back their power to choose. Why do you still look sad?" "Because I'm thinking about Superman," Leslie admitted. "About how he would have handled this differently. He would have found a way to save Homelander along with everyone else. Found some path to redemption I couldn't see." "Superman had the luxury of a world that still believed in redemption," Alina interjected gently. "This universe was too broken for that. It needed someone willing to make hard choices, to accept that some people are too damaged to save." "Maybe," Leslie conceded. "Or maybe I just wasn't good enough to find another way." "You were good enough," Maggie said firmly. "You were exactly what we needed. Not a perfect hero from a perfect universe, but a flawed person trying to do better. That's more inspiring than perfection ever could be." Annie January approached, pushing a stroller. Inside, Ryan Butcher January slept peacefully. Becca and Billy had asked Annie to be his godmother, a responsibility she had accepted with tears of joy. "How's the family?" Leslie asked. "Good, Ryan is adjusting. Therapy is helping him understand what his father was without hating himself for the biological connection. Billy and Becca are rebuilding their marriage. It's complicated and messy and beautiful." Annie smiled. "Very human." "And you, how are you adjusting to civilian life?" "I'm teaching," Annie said. "Elementary school. Using my story to help kids understand that powers, whether super or ordinary, don't define your worth. Your choices do. Huey joined them, his arm around Annie. Hey everyone, the gang's all here. Butcher, Frenchie, and Kimiko arrived as well. The boys, no longer fighting in shadows, but still connected by what they had survived together. Feels weird meeting in daylight, Butcher commented. Like we're supposed to be planning violence, not having a picnic. We've earned peace, replied. God knows we've earned it. They spread out in the park, former heroes and former vigilantes, choosing to be ordinary people for an afternoon. Sharing food, telling stories, remembering those they had lost and celebrating those they had saved. A train appeared last, moving at normal human speed. His powers had returned, but he used them sparingly now, a tool rather than an identity. Sorry I'm late. There was a car accident on 5th. I helped until paramedics arrived. Helping people, Leslie said with approval. Reggie Franklin, actual hero. Don't, he said, but smiled. I'm just trying to balance the scales. Figure I've got about 1,000 more rescues before I've paid my debt. Redemption doesn't work like that, Leslie replied. There's no cosmic ledger keeping score. You just keep choosing to be better every day for the rest of your life. That what you're doing? He challenged gently, choosing to be better. Trying to. Some days are harder than others. She looked at her friends, because that's what they had become, this unlikely collection of damaged, determined people. But having people who believe in you makes it easier. Speaking of which, Huey said nervously, I have news. The government is forming a new oversight committee for superhuman affairs. They asked me to be on it. No more vigilante justice. Actual law enforcement with proper checks and balances. You going to accept? Butcher asked. I think so. Someone has to make sure we don't repeat Vought's mistakes, that we build something better. Huey looked at Leslie. They want you too, as a C. Consultant, given your experience with heroes from another universe. Leslie was quiet for a moment. What do you think, everyone? Should I stay, or should I try to find my way home? What does home even mean? Frenchie philosophized. Is it the place you're from, or the place where people need you? Kimiko signed something. Frenchie translated. She says home is where you choose to fight for something that matters. This world needs you, Maeve said simply. Needs your perspective, your experience with actual heroes, your willingness to hold the powerful accountable. Plus, Annie added with a smile, we kind of love you, in a weird, found family sort of way. Leslie felt emotion threatening to overwhelm her electrical control. I love you all too, you infuriating, self-destructive, beautiful people. Ryan woke up, looking around at all the adults with sleepy confusion. Why is everyone crying? Because we're happy, sweetie, Becca said, picking him up. Because we're together and safe and things are finally okay. Are they though? Ryan asked with a child's insight. Is Homelander really gone? Will he come back? He's contained, Leslie assured him. And even if he escapes someday, you'll be ready. You're not him, Ryan, you're better. Because you're choosing to be kind despite having every reason to be angry. Like you chose to be a hero even though you were a villain, Ryan asked. Leslie laughed. Yeah, exactly like that. They sat together until sunset, watching the city lights begin to glow. This universe had been saved but not perfected. There would be new threats, new challenges, new choices between comfort and justice. But for now they had peace, had each other, had proof that even in the darkest universe people could choose to be better. Leslie thought of Superman again, imagined him smiling at what she had accomplished. Not perfect heroism, but genuine growth. Not saving everyone, but saving those she could and learning to live with those she couldn't. I'm staying, she announced to the group. This universe is my home now, for better or worse. Mostly worse, knowing our luck, Butcher muttered. But occasional better, countered. And isn't that worth fighting for? It is, Leslie agreed. It absolutely is. In a maximum security facility designed to contain metahuman threats, Homelander sat in his cell. The walls were lined with technology from Livewire's universe, sensors that detected power fluctuations, systems that could deploy countermeasures if he attempted escape. But he wasn't trying to escape, not yet. He was thinking. For the first time in his existence, stripped of constant adoration and fear, forced to confront himself without powers or costume or image, Homelander was actually thinking about who he was beneath all of it. And he hated what he found. A knock on the observation window. Dr. Samir, one of the few Vought scientists who had genuinely tried to help him as a child, stood outside. "May I come in?" the doctor asked through the intercom. Homelander almost said no, but curiosity won. "Why?" "Because I owe you an apology and an explanation." The door opened. Dr. Samir entered, unarmed and unafraid. Homelander could kill him easily, even temporarily depowered by the cell's isotope emitters. But he didn't move. "I was part of the team that raised you," Dr. Samir began. "I watched Vought treat you as an experiment rather than a child. I saw the damage being done and said nothing. I'm complicit in everything you became." "So this is therapy," Homelander sneered. "Little late for that, Doc." "Not therapy, accountability. I'm testifying against Vought, exposing everything we did to you. It won't undo the harm, but it will ensure no one else is raised the way you were." Homelander studied him. "Why tell me?" "Because you deserve to know that some of us regret what we did, that we see you as a victim before you became a perpetrator." Dr. Samir met his eyes. "You were a child who needed love and guidance. We gave you isolation and conditioning. We failed you completely." "Doesn't excuse what I did," Homelander said quietly. "No, nothing excuses that. But understanding context doesn't mean excusing actions. It means acknowledging that monsters are made, not born. And maybe understanding that you can choose to become something else." "I'll be in here for life," Homelander pointed out. "Doesn't matter what I choose." "It matters to you, and to anyone watching who might be on a similar path." Dr. Samir stood to leave. "Your story isn't over, Homelander. It's just finally becoming honest." He left. Homelander sat alone with those words. Your story isn't over. Could that be true? Could someone who had done everything he had done still become something better? He thought of Ryan, of his son being raised by people who actually understood how to love a child, who would teach him that power was a responsibility, not a right. Maybe that was Homelander's redemption, not personal salvation, but ensuring his son never became what he had been. It wasn't much, but it was something. Meanwhile, across the city, in a newly established oversight office, Leslie Willis reviewed reports of metahuman activity. Nothing major, small crimes, minor incidents, people still learning how to exist in a post-Vought world. Her computer screen flickered, not a malfunction, a message. The electromagnetic signature was familiar, impossibly familiar. She traced it back through dimensions, through the quantum foam between universes, to a source that made her hands tremble. A single line of text appeared. I knew you could do it, proud of you, Leslie, Clark. Superman. Somehow, impossibly, he had found a way to send a message across dimensional barriers, to let her know he was watching, that he believed in her. Leslie wiped tears from her eyes, smiling through them. Thanks, Smallville, I'm trying. Every day I'm trying. The message faded, but its impact remained. She wasn't alone. Even in another universe, even separated by dimensional walls, the hero who had believed in her was still out there, still supporting her. And that made all the difference. Ryan Butcher stood in the backyard of his new home, practicing with his powers under Leslie's supervision. Small things, controlled heat vision on targets, careful flight just a few feet off the ground. "You're doing great," Leslie encouraged. "Control is everything. Power without control is just chaos." "Like my father?" Ryan asked quietly. "Your father never learned control because no one taught him properly. You're different. You have people who love you teaching you the right way." Ryan concentrated, his heat vision cutting through a practiced target with precision. "I want to be a hero, a real one, like you." "I'm not a hero, Ryan. I'm just someone trying to be better than I was." "That's what heroes are," Ryan said with the wisdom of children who see clearly what adults complicate. "People who keep trying even when it's hard." Leslie felt her electrical form flicker with emotion. "You're going to be amazing, kid. Better than your father, better than me, better than anyone. Will you teach me? Will you stay?" "Yeah," Leslie promised. "I'll stay. This universe is my home now, and you're my family." They continued training as the sun set. A woman from another universe teaching a boy how to be better than his heritage. Both of them choosing light over darkness, hope over despair, growth over stagnation. The legacy of lightning wasn't just power. It was the choice to illuminate rather than destroy. And in that choice, universes could be saved. In a universe where fate made a single mistake, everything changed. A villain became a hero, a corrupt empire fell, a god learned to be human, and a family was saved. But the story doesn't end with victory. It never does, because heroism isn't about final triumphs. It's about daily choices to be better than you were yesterday. Leslie Willis, Livewire, chose to stay in a universe not her own, to fight for truth in a world that had forgotten its meaning, to hold the powerful accountable when everyone else looked away. She wasn't perfect. She made mistakes. She carried guilt for those she couldn't save, but she kept trying, kept fighting, kept believing that even in the darkest universe, light could find a way. And in the end, that belief changed everything. This is her legend. This is her legacy. This is the story of what happens when lightning falls from grace and chooses to rise again. Not as a villain, not as a hero, but as something more important. Someone trying. And sometimes that's enough.